Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive as race number 2 begins of our Wednesday shows. Of course, always every Wednesday night have the Skip Barber series, always immediately followed by the Raven Grafixx E-Speed Contender series. Here tonight, 200 laps, 175, or if you're Jake Blackhall, technically 176 miles of the Iowa Motor Speedway here tonight. So this is going to be a big one with that qualifying already scored complete. And let's go down your qualifying results tonight. So Bobby Stewart, again, on a big head of momentum at the end of the year, comes away with your pole position, 0.06 of a second over Brent Keith in the 32. Edward Zaghetti and Bart Marak then make up the second row just behind. Brandon Holder and Chris Britt make up row 3, with Bobby Everhart and Frank Gramuglia making up row 4. Sean Ryan and Jason Seislev round out your top 10 this evening. Turnmeyer and Torrey, they're going to make up the 11th row with Brad Neer and Aaron Ames. Everett F. Lane and Doyle Lawrence will roll off in row number 8, with Sean Miller and Timmy Logwood Jr. row 9. William Toney and Doc Stout row number 10. Brent Day and Glenn Jameson, the final 2 qualifiers here tonight, and that's interesting, starting in the 11th row. And Travis Townsend and Tim Marlowe, they come in, they don't put in qualifying times. They will start this race from the 12th row of the grid. So 24 trucks taking the green flag tonight. And Jake, as I almost called you Alvin because we just did the Skip Barbers, these guys have been struggling on the short tracks a little bit. This race though, this track a little bit longer, a little bit wider, almost has the feel of a bigger circuit than it really is. And the race distance is a little bit shorter than what we normally see. We always talk about the bumps here at Iowa. This should be a good one.
Yeah, this should definitely be a good one. Thank you, Randy. And it's definitely wider, a lot more room for people if someone makes a mistake to get away from it, and they're all able to try and avoid that incident if it does occur. So it's not going to be like what we had at Martinsville earlier on in the season. But Stewart on pole again, he's just pulling something out of his box of tricks at the moment, putting on pole Brent Keith alongside him. Britt down 6, that's a little bit of a shock for the person who's been dominating this whole season.
It really is, it really is. Trucks begin to roll themselves out there onto your speedway. Again, like we said, 200 laps is what we're going to be doing tonight. This track, very odd in terms of its configuration, very unique in a lot of ways compared to most racetracks out there. 7/8 of a mile is what we have here today. So these guys should be able to put on a big show tonight. Race conditions out there, 73-degree track temp, 71-degree ambient temperature, cool night of racing here at Iowa. Is that iRacing Safety Mustang getting ready to pull down onto pit lane. 16 of Bobby Stewart for, honestly, I don't lost count of how many poles it's been for him. I take that back. It's 2 pace laps. Jake, I am losing my mind.
I think we're all losing our mind here tonight. Yeah, 2 pace laps around the Iowa, especially tonight. And Bobby Stewart, yeah, I think we've all lost count of how many he's got at the present time. It just seems like that's all he's doing is getting the poles. He have a strong race result though tonight. He's definitely locked into the chase, mind you. So he's the 8th, 9th in the standings. Obviously, top 12 go through, so we should be safe after tonight.
I will say though, if you're Bobby Stewart, you do have to be nervous because we have 7 different winners. 5 people in the top 12 have not won a race. That 16 of Bobby Stewart is one of those, and he's been quick all season, Jake. And I think as quick as he's been, he has to be really frustrated with the fact he hasn't managed to snag a win just yet.
Yeah, you'd think he would have snagged a win by now, but it's just been one of those season up and down, gets on pole, but not able to get it done. So hopefully tonight, starting up front, he can try and get it done.
Race car comes down pit lane. A Lucas Oil Machine of Bobby Stewart going to get on the gas instantly pretty much. We're going to be green in your I Stand with Folds of Honor 200 here, presented by Raven Grafixx. Bobby Stewart gets it single file. Then they fanned out almost 3-4 wide, going into 1 for the first time behind. Chris Britt trying to cycle himself into Brent Keith. Not a good jump for Keith. But look at Chris Britt, Jake. Started this race 6th. He's already up to 4th.
Good jump from Chris Britt. He went around the high side. Bart Marak actually went to the low side of Keith and couldn't get it done, had to roll out of it. So they're all single file now, coming into 1 and 2 this time. Good jump from Britt from 6 up to 4.
Caution flies for the first time tonight. This is going to be early incident into 3 and 4. Travis Turnmeyer involved. He actually gets upside down after a secondary incident. I think that might have been with the 28 of Tim Marlowe. But let's see how this incident started here. The 54 of Turnmeyer, I take that back. This is going into 1 and 2. But the 54 of Turnmeyer gets tagged by the 76 of Brad Neer going into 1. And that sends Turnmeyer around. And then from there, handful of trucks got a piece of it. 24 of Everett Lane did a fantastic job avoiding. Unfortunately, someone not so lucky. That 56 machine of Sean Miller. Doyle Lawrence got a piece of it as well. Actually, did Travis Townsend got a piece of it. The 90 got a piece of it. 28 machine got a big piece of it. That was a big secondary incident we saw. That's a big incident to kick off lap number 1 of this event tonight.
That's a massive incident, about 5 trucks, 6 trucks I'm counting that got a little bit of damage from that, and it's all just from a little bit of a tap, and that's what can happen here at we said the track was more fanned out, we wouldn't see as many incidents, but Randy, we were wrong.
Indeed we were, but let's see how many cars do we see come down on a pit lane. Pretty much everyone coming down onto the pits now should be for repairs after that incident. So let's get a look here in just a moment's time. The 90 of Brent Day cycles through. 63 of Jamison on pit lane. Travis Townsend, Tim Marlowe, Everett Lane, Doyle Lawrence, Sean Miller, just getting confirmation here, and I believe that is it for trucks out there on pit lane. So how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trucks on pit lane at the end of that incident on lap number 2. Definitely not what you want if you're any of those guys.
Yeah, especially being Townsend and Marlowe from the back of the pack. They're trying to get their way through. Getting involved in that early incident sort of puts them even more on the back foot from where they were after qualifying. So obviously Everett F Lane came down as well. That was obviously for tyres after sliding them to avoid the incident. But that's definitely not what those two would have wanted. Marlowe and Townsend at the back of the pack. Looks like Townsend's rolling off now. His truck looks pretty clean, but Tim Marlowe's still there on pit road. Might even drop a lap after that.
And talking about those two, Jake, if you're Travis Townsend, you can afford to start from the back of the pack tonight from that 23rd position. I honestly think this is a big mistake for Tim Marlowe because Marlowe currently sits 11th in the points. Top 12, like we said, get themselves locked in, and he's only 42 points above the cutoff. He starts 22nd, so he's going to get he starts 24th, dead last. He's going to get the least amount of possible points from qualifying. He gets involved in a big incident. I think if you're Tim Marlowe, you couldn't afford to start from the back of the pack here today.
Yeah, I think for Tim Marlowe, this is really going to hurt him in the championship scope. Obviously, Doc Stout is out there at the moment running in 15th, so that's his closest and right behind him. But the battle from outside of that top 12, Sean Ryan in 13th, Paris Nelson 14th, William Tinney in 15th, they're all within 100 points of that cut-off line, so it's very close there. And to have Tim Marlowe already involved and on the back foot, it's going to be a tough night for him to try and come back.
He's basically going to have to win next week, I think. It's going to be a tough. I think if Bart, Bobby, Jason, or Doc, or actually anyone else in the top 20, maybe Sean, Perry, Tony, Doug, Brad Patterson, Brent Day, the ones that are here tonight, I think if any of them get a win, I think Tim Marlowe will be in a situation where he'll have to practically get a win going into next week to be able to maintain where he is in the points and stay in the chase.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things that he's going to have to look into, especially next week. So it really puts him on the back footer tonight. He's still on pit road too, so massive issues there for that 28 truck, but lights are out on the pace car, doubling him up and ready to go.
Field getting themselves back double file. As so far we've lost 4 trucks for sure. Doyle Lawrence, Tim Marlowe, Sean Miller, and Turnmeyer are all the trucks that are still on pit lane. All of them are 2 laps down, with the exception of Turnmeyer, who is 3 laps down. I know that Turnmeyer and Lawrence have called it quits and have exited the session, so their days are done. We'll see if anyone else gets out there today. Bobby Stewart, though, in command of the field, pace car on pit lane. And Bobby, again, early to the gas. Not as big of a jump this time, though, over the 58 of Edward Zagetti, who we saw win last week. But they're going to get themselves single file into 1 and 2 here. 4 Machine gets themselves single file as well, as the 31 of Holder had to fight with the 13 of Gramuglia through 2. Down the back straightaway here, working lap number 7.
Top 6, 7 pretty much clear after Bart Marak. You've got Bobby Everhart on the high side, Aaron Ames on the inside, the 71, 72 going at it. This is for the 7th spot at the moment. The inside, Aaron Ames should be able to get in clear going into 1 and 2, but he can hold him tight around that middle groove, and that's what Bobby Everhart's doing. He might actually be able to get the jump coming off of turn 2, and he does, so he clears Aaron Ames, puts himself solidly into that position. Out in front, though, battle for the lead. Zagetti on the inside of Stewart, and he's going to get it done coming off of turn 4. Good pass.
We saw this last week, Jake, with a 16 machine. He got himself to the top early to try to conserve tires. And here at Iowa, it's a very similar situation. That inside groove is really, really bumpy, and the tires tend to not like it. 16 machine being relatively conservative early on. The 58 machine goes aggressive and gets down to the low line and picks up the lead for now. But how will the 58 machine's tires evolve over time? Through 3 and 4, they were both running approximately the middle groove of the racetrack. Let's see what happens into 1 and 2. Edward Zaghetti's going to go pretty much down to the yellow line. He's going to stay about a third of a truck width up from the top. 16 machine a little bit higher, but not as high up the racetrack that time around. Brent Keith, though, looking and harassing the mirror of the 16 of Bobby Stewart, but the door isn't open. Everyone goes to the third groove for the most part amongst your top 5 into the 3 and 4.
Case definitely looking racy in that third position, though. We thought about going to the inside a couple of laps ago into turn number 3, seeking maybe here through 1 and 2. Is he going to nose underneath that 60? He isn't. Is he going to go for it in 3 and 4? No, he's not. He's just going to sit in behind. So the 32 is just sitting there waiting and wondering what to do. Britt, though, he's all over the back of them in the 4.
Top 5 pretty much line astern here. Brent Keith continuing to harass the mirrors of Bobby Stewart, but Bobby has been able to slowly stretch the gap over that 32 machine of Brent Keith. It was half a tenth last time around, and that's going to prevent Keith from being close enough to really being able to make a move. Here we go again. We see the trucks basically spanning out. Bobby Stewart goes low, everyone else goes high, and this is really interesting to me, Jake. The 16 of Bobby Stewart, opening couple laps, we saw him immediately go to the top side. Now we have a handful of laps on these tires. You're going to shortly start feeling that fall off, and Bobby's again going back down to the bottom. Might be a situation where Bobby wants to take care of them super early so that in the early stage, I'm going to say the early stages of the middle of the run, he can get down to the bottom a little more aggressively.
Yeah, maybe that's what he's trying to do, trying to get down so that during the run he can get down and start attacking. At the moment, though, he's still not able to close that gap to the race leader of Edward Zaghetti, last week's winner. And at the moment, the 45, Bart Marak just passed Frank Gamuglia, and that was for the 6th spot, so that position has been changed. But Brett looks closer to Keith this time. They actually look closer coming off of turn 4 to Bobby Stewart. Keith going to have a look going down to the 1. No, thinks better of it, stays in behind it once again. I definitely think Keith, though, Randy, is the faster car in this trio.
I think you're right. I think all these guys are, they're very close, but I think Keith has a little bit of speed. Problem is, it's not quite enough to get around the 16 of Bobby Stewart, and it's still going to be interesting to see which lines these guys go to. You really, relatively early on, Jake, at this racetrack, you don't really want to get, I'll say not early on, but through the middle of the run, you oftentimes want to try to stay off the bottom of the racetrack because the bumps can actually really hurt these trucks. Not as much maybe as it used to, but still the trucks aren't as stable down at the bottom, particularly through 3 and 4, which is why we see so many guys running all the way up against the wall.
Yeah, it's sort of known as that Iowa High Line coming through 3 and 4 now, especially with the trucks. You don't want to get down there in those. And at the moment, Bobby Stewart running the lowest of everyone in that 2nd position. And now maybe Chris Britt's got a little bit more pace over his teammate of that 32 of Brent Keith. He might have a look. Brandon Holder as well has sort of put himself in this battle in that 31. He might have something to show for as well in that truck. It's a little wheel from Britt coming off of turn 4. This could open the door for Holder, but he's not close enough to get it done.
In 1 and 2, they go back down to the bottom for your top, 2nd through 5th, really. The leader of Edward Zaghetti, still the class of the field, quickest last time around. And you see, actually, again, Zaghetti's liking the middle of the racetrack, it looks to me there, Jake. Everyone else, 2nd, 3rd, basically the rest of your top 5, going up against the wall. Travis Townsend, though, you just pointed out, he started out 2nd from last, 23rd. 19 laps scored complete, a handful of those under caution. He is up 15 spots all over the back now of Aaron Ames. They work down the back straightaway into 3. Townsend's on a move.
Yeah, I was just looking at that, looking through the field, and there's Townsend already up into 8th, and I don't think I expected anything worse or better from Townsend at this stage. Actually, no, he should be up in front, but that's not the case. Townsend is absolutely flying at the moment. And he's maybe going to put a move here on Aaron Ames, and this is going to put him into the 7th position coming into turn 3. He's going to use all the racetrack and a little bit more, trying to squeeze Aaron Ames up the track, but he gets it done, and now he's up to P number 7.
P number 7. Next car in line he'll have to get around is the 45 of Bart Marak. Bart, that yellow truck against the yellow line through 1 and 2. Townsend a little bit higher up, and he diamonds off the exit of the corner quite a bit. That gets him a big head of steam down the back straightaway into 3 and 4. The 45 machine still liking the bottom. I've noticed that, by the way, Jake, just watching these fights, watching from behind, watching backwards from Bobby Stewart, that 45 machine seems to like the bottom a lot more than everyone else. Everyone, kind of running that second, third groove through 3 and 4. The 45 machine, I don't think he's budged from that yellow line through 3 and 4.
Yeah, just looking at him now, running down near that yellow line, that 45 with Bart Marek's now in the 6th spot. It definitely looks like that's where his car feels most comfortable, especially if he's...
Oh, Aaron Ames did the round off of 4. I'm sorry to interrupt. Aaron Ames, self-spin coming off of 4. He goes down into the grass. He's going to work himself through the Legends Oval. Needs to be careful when he was whipping that car around. Came very close to putting tires on the pit lane. That would have seen him get an unsafe pit entry penalty, but for him, doesn't look like he's going to get that, so he's just going to lose the time from the spin. No damage on that machine, it looks like, as well. He's going to be able to shuffle himself back out, currently running 18th.
Yeah, can shuffle himself back out. Doesn't need to worry about the pit lane because there's a wall there, Randy.
I always get confused by that. It is what's weird is that you have the wall that divides the pit lane, but that wall, if you look at the asphalt next to the wall, it's actually got a line painted down the middle. I don't know if they sort of use a bit of a drag strip or what it is there, but it is painted. It's always confused me here, I'll be honest.
No, I do agree. I've seen it a couple of times. Oh, that's a pit lane. It is, and I don't know what it... Maybe it's for the Legends, or... It's definitely something down there on that inside of the grass, and he definitely got close to going down there. But back out in front, this sort of trio or quartet now of trucks sort of split up a little bit. Bridge sort of dropped off the back, and so has Holder a little bit further back as well. Length. So definitely looking now with Keith. He goes that different line through middle of 1 and runs a bit higher, but back behind them, Marak, they're getting caught by Townsend. Townsend just looks speedy from the word go.
Travis does look speedy indeed. Your leader, though, is Ageti encountering lap traffic. First, he has the 8 of Doyle Lawrence involved in that early incident. Tim Marlowe as well involved in that early incident. Currently back cycling out there on the racetrack. He will be the next truck to go another lap down. That will put him 12 laps down when it's all said and done. Now, your 3-car pack gets himself through Doyle Lawrence. That's Bobby Stewart, Keith, and Britt. All past 31 of Holder gets by as well through 3 and 4 and up off of 4. Here they come. I think Brent Keith has a little bit of momentum. I don't think he'll be able to make a move just yet, but he is there. Looking back at the 45 machine, though, of Bart Marak, Jake, he wasn't very quick in the early stages of the run, but look at the lap times Bart's been putting through. Bart about midway through the run or so here now, he has found a lot of speed.
Yeah, and that can come from a couple of things. Running that inside line as well is helping him maybe close that gap a little bit, but it looks like his tyres were able to hold on in that early stint, so I think that's definitely helping Bart because his pace is on pace with the leaders, and now Townsend behind him actually has dropped Townsend a bit, so Holder actually having a look at him on Britt. Britt might become a pick behind Tim Marlowe, and he does that, so this lap traffic now starting to get in the way of these leaders.
Is one of the problems you see on this racetrack. The 31 goes to the bottom. Everyone wants the top. Marlowe goes to the middle. The 4 machine went to the middle. And Brandon Holder, using the traffic expertly, picks up a spot. The 45 of Bart Marak is there now. He has consistently been 2 to 3 tenths quicker than all the trucks in front of him the last handful of laps. And now he's got the 4 machine of Chris Britt in his sights. Down to the bottom goes the 45 of Bart Marak. Up and off the corner they come. He doesn't get a big run because you get the momentum working the top side, but he has so much speed down along the bottom of the racetrack. He's going to be able to pull almost next to you just from corner entry alone.
Yeah, Bart Marak is really firing in that 45 at the moment. He got past those lap traffics quite easy. Got Bobby Hart's going to run that low side, which is actually going to hurt his momentum. Is he going to thread it? He is. He threaded the needle. 71 of Bobby Hart, nowhere to go, and that's going to open the to Chris Britt in front of him, and that's brought Townsend back into the battle now. So there's good on 6 odd trucks right now that are sort of battling with each other. There's a little bit of a gap now between Holder and Keith once that traffic sort of funneled through.
The battle up near the front pretty much gotten itself spread out. Basically second, third are the 2 trucks line astern right now. Like the Holder, Britt, and Marak have lost the back of that 16 and that 32 machine. I should take that back. It's Stewart and Keith, not Holder. I misspoke there. But we do now, though, have another 4 truck pack, and half of that party involves the people involved in that first 4 truck pack. This is Holder, Britt, Marak, and Townsend. fourth through sixth, seventh out there on the racetrack right now. Come across your start-finish line and into one, and you see a handful of these guys, Jake, all running different lines. The 45 machine likes the bottom. Holder gets to the bottom, but a little bit later. Both Britt and Townsend are running the middle, but they're running it in different ways. All of these guys driving this racetrack a little bit different from one another.
Yeah, everyone likes these different racetrack, different racing lines, and trying to figure out what they can do around this racetrack. Iowa definitely has that feeling. Marak, like, middle of the racetrack this time through 3 and 4, closer to Britt, but he loves that apron and starts kissing that yellow line through 1 and 2. A little bit of wiggle from Britt and that 4 truck. This could just be the little bit of incentive that Bart Marak needs to get down the inside like he does now through 3 and 4. He might try and squeeze him up near the fence, but it's going to hurt his momentum, and he might have to wait till 1 and 2. He's going to still be on his inside this time out for Bart Marak. 35 laps down in the books, and he's still going to be alongside him, and this is all helping Brandon Holder get away and helping Townsend, a little whittle for Marak. He's going to have to wait another time to get that done.
Well, he's going to pull up alongside in the 3 and 4, and I think he might just nose ahead of the 4 machine through the middle of the corner, but still, he's not able to get the pass complete. He should try to get himself single file as the 83 of Townsend is there, but again, he goes down to the bottom. Both the 4 and the 83 working the middle of the racetrack through 1 and 2. That 45 comes up off the corner and gets himself back in line. Let's see, does he dive down low? No, Townsend does, and Travis is going to pick up that spot. The 45 machine drops back 1 position. He's going to try to follow the 83 of Townsend, but 83, not a big run off the corner, Jake, because that Bart had to get way out of the throttle to not run him over.
Wow, these boys are fighting hard for 5th, 6th, and 7th at the moment. Townsend threw it down the inside. Marak, when he saw that he wasn't going to get the job done on Brett, and he wants that spot. So Marak's having another look now on Townsend, and these two need to stop fighting. They've got overall pace over the top 4. They just need to stop squabbling and get it done to try and get around everyone else in front of him. As Marak gets spot back coming off of 4, so wasn't expecting that. Didn't think he'd be able to throw it down the inside that quick enough, but he got it done.
Good move there by Marak. Looking at your top 7, they're all basically running equivalent times. 23.4 for Zaghetti last time, a 4.4 for Stewart, a 4.1 for Keith, 4.6 for Holder, 4.7 for Britt, 5.2 for Marak, and an 8.2 for Townsend last time by. Bart Marak goes in the 2s last time around. That 45 machine, I think, is really quick right now. I think right now, Jake, that 45, he wants to be running all the way up against the wall on exit, especially off of 4. I think having Britt constantly on the outside of him prevents him from getting there, prevents him from being able to run the laps, because that 45 machine, I think, is the quickest on the racetrack when he's single file. Again, not quite able to get clear of the 4 machine of Britt off of 4.
Yeah, I definitely think Marak's one of the quickest trucks out there at the moment. He tries to squeeze the 4 of Britt coming off of turn number 4. Couldn't get it done though, so he's having to wait another couple of laps to see what he can do. Maybe just hold off the tires a little bit in front of him though. It looks Keith is a little bit closer to Bobby Stewart as well. He's definitely there and harassing the back of that 16, so if those two start squabbling, that could bring all 4 of these other trucks back into that battle.
Quickly approaching 50 laps scored complete and 1/4 race distance here tonight. And because of that, Jake, we have to start thinking about the first round of pit stops. I'm thinking these guys, this is just a guesstimate, they could probably hit somewhere between 60 to 70 laps of fuel. And Bart Marak able to get the job done on Chris J. Brett. He slides up in front of him coming off of corner number 4. And actually, he gets into the back of Holder through 1 and 2. That 45 machine has a ton of grip late on in the run. I don't think he realized Holder was going to be that far off pace. There's just a bit of a kiss. I don't think there would be much damage there, but that is a little bit of a touch there from the 45 of Bart Marak. The 31 of Holder likely not going to be happy about that, especially with the incident system we have here today, or in this championship.
Yeah, that's a little bump that may not have been needed, but it's not Marak's fault. He wasn't expecting Holder to be slowing up that much, so he's going to have to try and do what he can now that he's around him. He's flying out there, that 45. He got the job done quite easily. Keith's actually dropped off a little bit from the 16 of Stewart, so now the 45 eyes set on that 3rd position, and that is Keith in front of him. And I think he might be able to get this one done with the pace that he's got. He is honestly the quickest truck out by a fair way at the moment.
Looking at the laps last time by, just to confirm, basically a 23.8 from Zaghetti last time, 23.5 from Stewart, 23.7, 23.65 from Keith, a 23.3 from Marak, and that was passing traffic. This time they cycled through another 3 for Marak, another 6 for Keith, a 5 for Stewart, and another 7 for Zaghetti. 58 machines falling off, 45 machines coming on, and the 16 and the 32 are both somewhere in between. I think if these guys stay out much longer, Jake, we could be seeing the 45 being the race leader if the run stays for about another 15 or so laps as he sets his sights on Brent Keith now.
Yeah, well, the 45 is now right there behind the 32 of Brent Keith, so I think he might be able to get this one done and quite easily. I don't think Keith's going to fight for it. He has seen that pace the 45 has had. He should be able to get it done. He's going to go into 4, has actually lost position to the 31 and the 83, so Britt's now moved down into P7 as Brack has got the job done through 3 and 4 on that 45, and that puts him up in a 3rd. And now let's see what he can do to Bobby Stewart. I don't think Stewart's going to hold him off either. I think he's just going to easily carve his way up through another 2 tenths taken out of Stewart last time round, even with the pass, Keith.
45 machine continues to be on rails, and this is really interesting to me, Jake, because we see everyone running up against the wall, mostly to conserve tires. I'm actually really shocked, considering how bumpy the inside of this racetrack is, that Bart Marak has been able to not only maintain pace, but maintain tire life down working the inside. We see no one else work the bottom of the racetrack, and we see no one else with the late run pace of that 45 of Marak. Look at the way he closes through the center of the corner on that 16 machine. At this point, everyone's so slow that even if he doesn't get a great run off the corner, he's just going to have so much speed on entry, he should be able to pull alongside. He's a little hesitant with Bobby Stewart on entry into 1 and 2. He pulled alongside through the center of the corner. Coming up and off, they're going to be even. I think we're going to see that 45 machine P2 into 3. Now, all the way down to that yellow line goes the 45 of Marak and put him in the 2nd spot. He is clear, now setting his sights on Edwards getting the 58, currently working lap 51.
He made that look easy. Let's just say Bart Marak literally has so much more pace than everyone else at the moment that he's able to do that. It didn't take him long to get around those two to put himself in that 2nd position. Now he's got to set his sights on Edwards Zaghetti, who's had a pretty quiet race out in front. But the way Bart Marak is going, it's like he's on fresh tires, Randy. It's like he has that much more grip than everyone else. He's able to carve through the field. It's just the way he saved those tires over the run. At 23.397, Marak 23.7, so another 3 tenths goes the way of the 45 truck.
And you know what I want to see here, Jake? This might sound a little bit contradictory. I want to see that 45 of Bart Marak be the one to dictate the strategy. I want to see him come down and pit first. And here's why. Everyone right now knows that he's the quickest truck out there on the racetrack. If he's the one who blinks first, even if it's a handful of laps early, he comes down, he will have the undercut, even if it's just for a lap. We saw that 45 machine struggle at the early stages of the run. By doing that, he prevents himself from losing any early spots and losing any time. Not to mention, even if someone stays out a bit longer than him, we know that that truck is so fast that he's going to be quickest at the end of the run. I don't think he needs to come down really early. I don't think it has to be a 10 to 20 lap undercut or anything, but I think if he is the first to come down, maybe by 2 to 3 laps, I think that 45 machine is going to be really hard to beat, because how do you beat someone who's quicker at the late stages of the run, who's undercutting you?
Yeah, as he gets passes done on it, it's Zaghetti coming off a 4, and he's got that position now, new leader, that 45 of Bart Marak. So I agree. I think if he comes down, he can dictate this race now. He's got the pace. He's got to have he start with a little bit of traffic here, but we'll see what he does and whether he tries to down pit road earlier than everyone else and try and dictate the race, because if he does so, he's definitely got it in the palm of his hand.
45 machine, just to keep in mind how quick he is other than lap times. We restarted this race on lap 5. On lap 5, actually take that back, we restarted on lap 6, I believe, end of lap 5 into lap 6. Bart Marak restarted this race in 7th, and over the course of about 50 laps has driven his way to the race lead. No strategy involved, no tire shenaniganry, just on pure pace. We've seen Bart Marak, Jake, really complain, I think. Well, let's say not complain, but we'll talk about the strategy in the post-race interviews when he joins us at the end of the races after the number of top 5 finishes he's amassed this year, one of the most consistent drivers in the championship. And week in, week out, we hear that 45 machine say, he had a late run truck, I didn't really get to use it. We're seeing what that 45 machine has had all those times he said that.
yeah, we're actually seeing the late run truck that Bart Marak has. If we saw it a little bit earlier on, who knows how many more wings he could have next to his name, and if he could have been able to challenge for, or if he could have a win next to his name. He still doesn't have a win. He's been that consistent that he's actually 257 points above the cutoff right now as he gets past Aaron Ames, putting himself a lap down. But it's just shows to show that he's had this truck, and he's definitely showing it tonight.
He definitely is. We're definitely nearing the first cycle of green flag pit stops at the rate we're going. We're working lap number 59, going to be lap 60 at the end of this one. Into 3 and 4 they come. So up and off the corner as Bart Marak puts James Torrey a lap down. Now sets his sights on the 62 of Doc Stout. No one comes down pit road just yet. Still a little bit too early for everyone. And Jake, what's your what do you reckon? When do you think we're going to see a number of these guys come down onto pit lane here? You know, as we quickly are approaching the tail end of this run, can't be a lot of laps left. What do you think the fuel window is for these guys?
You'd be looking around lap 65 to 70. I think that's the window that we might be looking for. It depends on how much this guy saved that first portion, because they saved a little bit more. They might be able to stretch that out a little bit longer, but at the moment it definitely looks like Bart Marak is dictating this pace, and he can pit whenever he wants, because he is now pulling out a gap of about a second over Edward Zaghetti, who just clears the 62 now coming off turn 4. So a little bit of lap traffic definitely helped Marak open up that gap for the race lead.
Gap for your race lead out to a 2.5 seconds now. And really at this point, Jake, you know, like you said, coming in on the late stage of the run as Bart puts the 28 machine of Tim Marlowe down another lap as his bad night gets even worse, arguably. When do you want to see some of these guys, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th out there come down pit lane? Because I honestly think if you're Zaghetti, Stewart, Keith, Britt, Townsend, you know, I said that Marak should do a little bit of a short pit, just because then he cuts off any strategy. Actually, we have a truck in the wall. Depending how this evolves, we might get ourselves an incident, but it looks like everyone's going to stay single file and clean for now. That was a 62 of Doc Stout. Got up into the groove, out of the groove, and I think tagged the wall through 1 and 2. Actually almost 3 wide through 3 and 4 later on in the lap with Brent Keith and James Torrey. But when, if you're Zaghetti, Stewart, Keith, or Britt, do you think about making that short pit stop? It has to be soon, right? Because you have to see the pace of that 45 and realize you have nothing to keep up with that.
Yeah, I definitely think you need to come down around about now, try and use that undercut to your advantage, because he's not going to pit. You know he's got a raw pace on you in the long run. You need to try and minimize that in the short run. So if you can come down now, get some fresh tires, and see what you can do from here, that might be the best bet for them to try and work something out with. But at the moment, he's just pulling away. It's now 2.1 seconds ahead of Edward Zaghetti, and he is passing lap trucks as well, is Marak. So it's just overall longevity of this truck is brilliant at the moment.
Working lap 66, and into 1 he goes on the inside of the 24 of Everett F. Lane. He is going to get that spot for now as he comes up off of 2. Everett Lane going to get a bit of a run, but of course going to lift out of it as he's dealing with the race leader. Not even a fight with him whatsoever. So first round of pit stops is what we're waiting for. Most of your fights for position has resolved themselves for now. Brandon Holder actually a little bit of trouble, I think, coming off of 4. Yeah, Brandon Holder, 31 machine running 7th, gets tight coming up off of 4. He gets into your outside wall. Not a hard hit, but I think it's going to be a little bit of damage there, which is definitely not what you want to see. Edward Zaghetti slows, actually, and where is this? This is coming through 3 and 4. So Edward Zaghetti in the 58, first-year drivers to blink and turn the pit strategy. First driver coming down onto pit road now for scheduled service. Lap 67 is what it's going to be today. He is going to run down into his pit lane. Going to be up near the front as he qualified 3rd. But let's see how everyone responds. Bart Marak's going to stay out on the racetrack. Bobby Stewart stays out on the racetrack. Brent Keith stays out on the racetrack. Britt Townsend, he responds. He comes down onto pit lane. Actually, very, very quick. Very near the barrels on driver's right-hand side at the pit entry. Holder, near Gramuglia. Everyone else is going to stay out by the looks of things. So Townsend on lap number 68, the only one to come down. Bart Marak stays out. Bobby Stewart stays out. Brent Keith is going to stay out. Chris Britt. Brandon Holder is just entering 3. And on the exit of 4 he comes. These guys are lifting very, very interestingly through the middle of 3 and 4 up on the top side of the racetrack. some point we'll have to ride on board so you guys can hear the way these drivers are working the throttle through the center of the corners. Again, for the most part, your leaders opting to stay out and not come down pit lane. It seems to be a bit of an undercut for Zaghetti, 13 in the 76, fighting for position. This is Brad Neer and Frank Gramuglia running 6th and 7th. Side by side, up and off of 4, and who's going to be the beneficiary here? Gramuglia gets himself the spot, and he'll hold on to that 6th position. Doxed out a lap truck who's involved here. He's mostly irrelevant. Sean M. Ryan, though, just behind Brad Neer. He is a contender. You also have Edward Zaghetti, who unfortunately for him just came out in a bunch of traffic after getting those new tires, and that's not what he's going to want at all. He's going to have to get around these guys. He's going to have to pray that with this bit of a, let's say, jumble of trucks out here on the racetrack, the yellow doesn't end up coming out, because that would lock him one lap down. Brandon Holder, he comes down onto pit lane, but he did so from a little bit deeper in the field. And because he pit so much later, I don't think he's been able to work the undercut to get back up near the front of your field here. Bobby Stewart, your pole sitter, still sits in second. Gap, though, to your race lead has spread to 5 seconds out there on the racetrack, and Bart Marak is opting to run these tires as long as they can. And who can blame him? Even if Edward Zaghetti gets a big undercut, even if he re-inherits your race lead, Marak will be out there late enough that he'll basically have a new tire advantage. And from then on, I think the 45 will be pretty much unstoppable. Bobby Stewart, I think, likely going to follow the same strategy of Marak. No matter what Bart does, I think Bobby's going to follow. Either that or Bobby's going to come down sooner. There's no way, if you're Bobby Stewart, you can afford to let Bart Marak undercut you. Working lap number 75. And most of your fights, as we said, have pretty much settled themselves out. 3rd and 4th is relatively close. This is the teammates of Brent Keith and Chris J. Britt. Don't expect them to fight too hard. 4 of Britt right now has the pace over the 32 of Keith. So, expecting that to resolve itself relatively quickly. Though, does the 32 of Keith let it go? Or does the 4 of Britt get locked in before the pit stops? 4 of Britt goes down to the inside through 1 and 2. He's going to pick up that spot. And still, watching most of your leaders here, Jake, we've not seen very many people blink. We saw Zaghetti come down pit road. We saw Travis Townsend come down pit road. No one else has decided to pit yet. Everyone choosing to stay out as long as possible. Bart Marak closing in on lap number 78, well, lap number 80. These guys staying out for quite a while. And right now, if you're Edward Zaghetti, think about the situation you're in, because Zaghetti, he came down onto the pit lane on lap number 67, was his in lap. Bart Marak, when he comes out, is going to be on 20 lap fresher tires than Zaghetti. And then Marak, we know, is just going to be quicker from the beginning of the run all the way to the end due to that new tires. And actually, Jake has now joined us. I mean, Zaghetti's in no man's land right now, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like that's literally all he's done. He's put himself into that position where he's just going to struggle for the rest of the night, especially like you said, if he's come down early trying to use that undercut. Marak's still out there doing what he can at the moment. It's really going to put him on the back foot, especially if he comes down later on. Marak's just going to have him covered, so it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out.
And looking at the speed right now, Edward Zaghetti just did a 23 flat. Marak did a 23.9. He comes across the stripe. That's going to be a 9.5 actually. So definitely good pace there for Bart Marak. He's a little bit off the speed, of course. I think what we're likely going to see, Jake, I think Zaghetti will have the lead for a window. I think what Zaghetti needs to hope for, though, is that as the 76 of Brad Neer comes down on the pit lane, we're still, actually, I take that back. Chris Britt and Brent Keith, they respond. They come down on the pit lane from 3rd and 4th. Right, actually 16 of Bobby Stewart, he comes down on a pit lane as well. And 16 of Bobby, he almost spun that machine, Jake, coming down on a pit lane. He actually clipped that curb. Not only did he almost spin, he came scared, frighteningly close to those barrels on driver's right. That would have been race ending for the 16, I think.
That could be race ending if he didn't get a speedy penalty from that. Just having a look at his speed, it all looked alright, but that's not something you want to be doing coming down on the pit road, especially at this racetrack, because that could have swung him back into the inside wall on the pit road. So he's lucky to get away with that. Comes down to his first pit stall. So at the moment he's come down pit road. I think I saw the 4 come down, the 2's just coming off the pit road now. So everyone else looks like they're all still funneling through, doing their cycle of green flag pit stops. And at the moment, but Marak still out in front inside 83.
Drivers who have yet to pit: Frank Remuglia, Sean Ryan, Timmy Logwood Jr., Brent Day, the drivers who have yet to hit the pit lane. Right now, if a caution were to fly, the 24 of Everett F. Lane would be the lucky dog. So Bart continues his strategy of just use these tires. They're super quick for me when they get old, so you might as well. No real point in pushing them, well, not using them up a little bit shorter. He's going to lose some time now in this stage of the race, actually just behind, almost 3 wide, is a 32 of Brent Keith, likely about to unlap himself once. He's currently 2 laps down, though, after that pit stop. He's all over the back of your race leader. He's going to shuffle himself now, just a single lap down. And Jake, right now, if you're Bart Merak, I've said every single time I've liked what he's doing, but I think part of that is because I don't think the 45 can really make a mistake, because he's the only truck out there. He's lapped currently up to 3rd on the racetrack. Part of that's due to pit stops, but right now Timmy Logwood Jr. in 3rd is just in front of him, and Frank Remuglia is just a little bit further up the racetrack. But the 45 of Bart Merak, the way he's finding pace and the speed he has, I don't know if he can actually technically make a mistake, just simply based on the fact that if a yellow comes out now, virtually the entire field is locked a lap down. Or if he undercuts, he's just going to be better than everyone regardless as well.
Yeah, he's really got this strategy, like I said before, in the palm of his hand. He can do whatever he has to do to try and get the job done, and at the moment, he's even closing in on these guys in front of him to an extent. And like you said, even if he comes down and there is a caution later on the run and he's staying out, he actually can then just dictate, because they might have to all come down pit road because of how long they've been actually on those set of tires. They might take the gamble and try and get their wave around, but I think a lot of them will go, I need tires anyway for the restart, otherwise I'm just going to get shuffled back. So Merak's really in a great position right now to just sort of dictate this how he wants to.
I think the 58 of Edward Zaghetti is the perfect representative, Jake, for that strategy. I think he came down way too early. I mean, he's currently working lap number 87. Like we said, he came down pit road on lap number 67. I mean, you're nearing a 23 lap difference in terms of strategy, in terms of an undercut. I think that's too much of the stint. I mean, we're closing in on lap 90. I think if you're trying to undercut by that, I mean, that's a third of the run almost that you're trying to undercut. That's just way too much, because you're always just going to lose so much time that you have to stay relatively close in terms of the pit cycle, because you're always going to be in a situation where you're either come out and you're way faster than a lot of people, but because there's so many trucks out there and the track's so small, you're going to get locked into traffic, or you're going to be get the rougher end of the stick, I think. Because if you get a long run, you're just going to stay locked down by a lap, because the lap here is so short. And if you get a yellow flies, if you're Edward Zaghetti, you're running 8th, 1 lap down. Good luck getting that lap back, unless Bart Merak, well, actually, no. If you're Zaghetti, you can't pit, because you're 30 laps. Yeah. You're on 30-lap old tires, so you have to pit.
Exactly. It's actually put Zaghetti in this spot, sort of where he has to make an extra stop, where he doesn't need to at the moment. And that's if a caution flies. And at the moment, Merak's nearly going to lap the whole field. I don't think we've realised this, but he's actually coming up to close in on the back of Timmy Longwood Jr. He's been behind him for the past couple of laps right now. He might actually be able to lap the whole field, and if he does that, he sort of has free reign to do whatever he wants. If a caution flies, he's going to be a lap ahead. He'll have to take tyres, and that obviously that might put some people in a wave round position. But if it goes on, like I said, some of those guys might have to come down pit lane. Prime example, Edward Zaghetti, just to get fresh tyres. So at the moment, Merak is doing everything he can. He's coming up to complete lap 92. He can maybe even one-stop this race. That's how good those tyres are.
That's what he's closing in on. He's closing in on that halfway point of lap number 100, and that would be quite the feat for him. And really, Jake, I think he's at the point where if he can save the fuel to do that, I absolutely think he should. Only question that I have is that we had that yellow in the early stage of the race that, probably made that, somewhat possible to make it this deep in the run. I don't necessarily think it's going to be possible to come out to pit on lap number 100 and then make it to the end without a yellow on the second half of the race. And the way this race is going, field relatively spread out. There's really not a lot of tight fights out there on the racetrack right now. This has all the factors of going green to the end, it would seem. It's actually the 28 of Tim Marlowe. It's a big push behind the 45 of Bart Merak. The 83 of Travis Townsend. He's going to cycle through to unlap himself. So now the top 3 are going to be a lap down. And this is the phase that we're going to see that 45 lose pace, though. We were expecting that. But it's that seconds when he comes down pit lane. He's essentially just going to be quicker than everyone else. He's going to be on basically 20 lap newer tires.
Yeah, even though we might lose a little bit now, I think Marac's looking at the long game, and that's what he needs to do. If a caution comes out, he's still going to be in a good position. If it doesn't, he's still going to be in a good position. It's not a lose situation at the moment for that 45 Marac. He just needs to play it out how it comes to him. And at the moment, he's doing a good job of that. He's running consistent pace. He hasn't dropped off as much. It's not like these guys are really blowing him by. He's still able to keep somewhat of a pace up with these guys, and it looks like he's just dropping down to the bottom of the yellow line through 3 and 4. He's just following Tory through, but obviously Townsend now up into P2, just got that pass done on Timmy Logwood Jr. So we'll see how much that gap comes down between himself and that 83.
So the 45 machine, will he be able to make it to that halfway point here and be able to maybe one-stop this race? That's the question. Currently working lap number 97, going to come across the stripe to complete lap number 98. If he doesn't get there, he's going to be antagonizingly close to make it to the end on just a single pit stop here today. Like we said, it did take a caution to get him to this point, but if he's able to do that, maintaining the pace he has, that is borderline absurd here. Let's see now. Into 3 and 4 he comes. And up off the corner, he gets another good drive. Going to be getting lap number 99 here. He's got to go around 2 more times, Jake, to get it to the halfway point. I think he's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, I think he's going to be able to comfortably do it. So I just think the tyres dictated everyone's first stop, trying to do an undercut on Bart Marac, and at the moment, he's just sort of covering that off. All he can do at the moment, coming up to complete lap 99. And I say we'll see him in next time by, and it's been a really good start of the race for that 45. He's done everything he could. He didn't start up in front. He worked his way to the front, and now he's trying to see what he can do out in front.
Well, he started near the front. He qualified fourth. Also interesting to note that 83 at Travis Townsend currently runs second out there on the racetrack. Also important to note, we do have one other driver who hasn't pit, I believe. That's the 92 of Timmy Logwood Jr. He cycles down on the pit lane now. Bart Marac, he goes all around another time, and I actually like this, Jake. This is one of those things I've already thought of. If you're in a situation where you're saving fuel, even if you get in the window, if you have extra fuel at the end of your first stint, I think you should always continue to run laps. That way you just bring that gap down more and more for the amount of fuel that you have to have for that second run. Every single lap Bart Marac goes now is just a banker lap for the second half of the race.
It's a banker lap for tyres as well. You know that if he can burn out this now, even though he's running sort of consistent pace, he's not going to worry about it. But coming up to the end of next stint, he knows he doesn't have to go that extra 2, 3, 4, 5 laps or 10 if he can stretch it out that long. I don't think he will, but if he can, it sort of puts him in that position where he can just go, yep, I've got these little bit of extra laps. I know the car's going to be a little bit quicker on tyres towards the end, and he's going to be able to do it. So at the moment, Zaghetti got his lap back that time through 3 and 4, and now only 2 other trucks on the lead lap. Marac, the leader, coming down soon, I'd say.
Coming down soon. He actually, that truck is sputtering as he comes off a 2. I think he may have overdone this, Jake. I like the fact that he thought about it and he was this aggressive with it, but I think what he was trying to do was, I think he had to push the fuel to the limit. He almost got confused, I think, with the pit entry as well. I think he realized that the last moment is on driver's left, but he's coasting down that pit lane. The engine has shut off. It's going to be a complete pit stop from him. Let's see, someone else, 24 of Everett Lane, also coming down on a pit lane. So this is going to be borderline disaster mode, though, for Bart, because he's coasting down. He's going to lose a good chunk of time coming down the pit lane, not a full pit lane speed, lose a handful of seconds here, but the fact that he's only going to have to make one, well, he's basically good to the end of the race. Everyone else will still have to pit, and we know how strong that truck has been in the later stages of run. How was Bart, Jake, able to be so much quicker than everyone, saving gas to make it to this point?
I don't know. I don't know, and I don't want to know. He's flying out there at the moment. He may go a lap down. He's come out of pit road now. We'll see where he actually cycles through, because there's the 83 coming up to lap him on the outside. He needs to block that run from Townsend. He's going to run the inside line, and he's going to get that position and hold him
That's irrelevant. Because Townsend's on 40-lap old tires.
Got to remember that now. Yeah, you think, oh, the pit stops just happened. They're all on sort of similar strategies. No, they're not. So, yeah, he's going to blow the doors off of everyone as he comes off of turn 2, and that's the gap that he's pulling already on Travis Townsend. So, this will be interesting. 23 seconds to the race lead. I don't think it will take him that long to get there.
Crazy stuff from Bart Marac. Bart has been the class of the field for sure today. First trip around the racetrack, 23 flat. 83 did a 23.6. Everyone else basically, as well, running in those mid 23s. The thing about that, Jake, he has a half-second per lap advantage right now. And the way things are going, if it stays green, he doesn't have to pit again, and everyone else does, and he's on the lead lap.
It's a masterstroke. I don't know what else to say about it. It's brilliant work from Bart Marek. He gained another couple of tenths that time round, and everyone else is starting to come down pit road again. So, and that just shows how much of a situation that he's got right now. He has got that much of a gap that even though these guys are going to have to pit again, which they're going to have to, he's just going to be there and just float away and see what he can do from there, because he knows that he's got at least an 18-second buffer to Townsend, and he's actually opening that up again when you think of it in the long run. So a great strategy from that 45.
16 of Bobby Stewart, disaster for him though that we keep up with that 16 machine, Jake. We saw him on his first pit stop get scary loose on the pit entry. He did it again, and this time he actually lost the truck and hit the barrels. That right rear, I think, going to be all out of alignment. We see a bit of damage cosmetically. I think that truck's likely to be driving a bit worse though. I find it hard to believe you would have hit the wall like that, but disaster for your pole sitter.
Yeah, disaster for the 16 of Stewart, and this is not what he needed. Obviously, he's got a good points buffer going into this race, but it's just trying to minimize those little 5%ers, and at the moment, he just hasn't been able to do them as much as I think he'd like. Coming off a pit road now, a lot of rear end damage. Obviously, didn't get it repaired, but that's just something you don't want to see that 16 do, and it's just something he's going to have to try and fight back out of from here.
So Bart Marek on the secondary strategy continues to reel everybody in. He just did a 22.9 last time by. Looking at Travis Townsend, just, you know, as a reference, 22.6 is his PB of the race. The 50 and the 31. Edward Zagetti and Brandon Holder, they're fighting for second place out there on the racetrack. They also have Chris J. Britt not far behind in fourth. So those two cars, though, they go into corner number 3. Holder goes to the bottom. 58 is Zagetti, goes up to the top through 3 and 4. And Holder not quite able to get there. And this one's going to be a slow burner, isn't it, Jake? That a lot of the fights we're seeing were really not, you know, the most exciting at this phase of the race. I don't want to say it doesn't matter just yet, but we're really, you know, the way this race is running, it's almost got an endurance feel, doesn't it? Where the middle of the run, the middle of the race isn't what we're watching for, waiting to see where all these guys come out and relative to each other after the final round of stops.
Yeah, it's pretty much like a massive endurance race for the trucks around an oval. It's really got that feel to it. Everyone's on alternate strategies trying to see how they can make it work. And Bart Marek obviously on that one-stop strategy. A couple of these guys on the two-stop. Zagetti using up the earlier stop coming down on lap 67. So he might actually be the first one to stop of everyone else. Stewart's obviously already come down as well for his second stop, and that sees him 2 laps down. So it's just one of those situations where everyone's in this different feel, and it just gives that race that feel of don't want to get into a battle, we're all fighting for that long game, and that's sort of where everyone's at the moment.
Keep in mind that with the 16, he definitely would have lost himself a lot of time after that incident on pit road, but that incident doesn't seem to have cost him much speed. He just did a 23 flat out there on the racetrack. Just keep in mind where he is compared to, well, I mean, you pretty much said it, compared to Bart Marek. He's a couple laps further down now. Bart Marek, he's got about 9 seconds that he has to reel in over Brent Keith. But Keith is running about 3/10, only about 0.3 of a second slower every single time around this racetrack. So right now, if you're Bart Marek, you're not really reeling anyone in by a huge amount, Jake. But I don't think Bart is really driving that truck to his full potential. We don't really see him getting down to the lap times anyone else is. His PB is a 22.9. There's a handful of other guys in the 6s and the 7s. I think Bart is saving fuel just to make it to the end here, and I think he's under driving this truck because he knows if it stays green, really his pace is more or less irrelevant.
Yeah, I think the same thing as well. I don't know whether it's worth doing it this early, maybe a little bit later on, because he knows he has the tire grip later on, whether it's just better just to save it over that sort of part of the stint and use up that little bit now just to try and close that gap. But he's closing the gap anyway. He just did a 23.0 compared to Townsend with a 23.8. So definitely, and caution is out.
Brad Neard off of 4. Let's see, what was the cause of this one here? Brad Neer gets up into the outside, retaining wall into an incident. Was there another truck involved? Yes, it was. This was championship leader of Chris J. Britt, who threw the middle corner, Jake. Actually, the 76, no fault of Brad Neer's at all, but Chris is the one who really benefits. Ford Machine just flat out, I think, overcooked it on the entry, lost it, got into the 76. By getting into the 76, it corrected the 4, and it sent the 76 around.
Oh, the 32 of Keeks was lucky to avoid it as well, and just unfortunate incident for Neer. None of his own, like you said, Randy. It was all the 4's doing. Just threw it in there, tried to get the spot and tried to get around that lap truck. And that was all it took. Got a little bit loose on entry, tried to save it, chased it up the racetrack, and that's what it did. Straight into the 76, nowhere else to go. So around goes Brad Neer, and that's going to hurt him for the rest of this race. But very lucky a couple of those other guys trying to get through that.
Now here's a big question. We've been watching the 45 of Bart Marak. Jake, the fact that he's on this strategy, he's of course on the newest set of tires of everybody except Bobby Stewart. We know Bobby will be taking the wave around for sure. Does Bart pit? Yes, he does. He is. So he's going to roll off 6th today. Let's see though what kind of things people do. 15 lap old tires. I think if you're Bart Marak, Jake, you can't rule out just taking 2 here. Everyone else has to take 4. Although granted, because of the lap trucks, this field isn't really all that stacked up. He may not actually pick up any spots, only taking 2. So he should roll off 6. That's a good thing for himself. Will he take 4 though?
To be honest, if I was in his situation, the right side to go up on that truck, I'd take 4. Knowing you're not going to gain anything with the 2 because everyone else has already just passed you, I'd take the 4, which he's doing, and just use that race pace that you know he's got. To try and punch out some laps. He knows he's going to be safe on fuel. It sort of disperses his strategy a little bit now because he doesn't have that advantage, but he's got the overall pace advantage for the whole stint, and I think he can drag it out and get it done.
So with that 120 laps scored complete today, drivers working 121, we're going to step away for the first time here today. Join us in just a few moments time for the I Stand With Folds of Honor 200 here on the E-Speed and Raven Grafixx Contender Series. Don't go away.
I actually, really enjoy dirt racing. Feels good to get in the car, and we have, great cars and engines and things at KKR, so it's nice to drive a fast sprint car.
Couple of separate lines developing, 3 wide action on a turn 2. Craig Kinzer, Casey Kane, and Kieran Pittman going at it.
I think the differences between, NASCAR and the sprint races on dirt is just a much different mindset. The way you drive your cars, the setup, the feel you're looking for. I think one of the hardest things to tell as a fan is when you're watching a race, whether it's a NASCAR race, a dirt race, is just what's really going on in the car. With iRacing, you can get the way that the track's changing, which they've done a great job in how the track changes throughout the night or throughout the race, just to try to capture it and let the fans play it and realize, like, man, there's actually a lot going on, and you can't always see that when you watch a race. So I think it's pretty neat. It's, enjoyable for me, but at the end of the day, it's actually much of a simulation, and there's a lot of ways that you can learn from that. And early on, it was neat to look at the Cup tracks that I was going to, places that I had never been. So I think it kind of gives you a head start leading into a weekend. It's pretty real life, and that's pretty neat.
Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. Lights are out on the pace car. They're coming out of 4. Pace car down on a pit lane. 83 of Travis Townsend in command of the field. He goes a little bit early. Green flag back out. Second caution of the night. Coming to lap number 125. 76 laps left to go here at Iowa into 1 and 2. They come. 58 of the Getty. Working the top, the 4 and the 31. That's Britt and Holder down against the bottom of the racetrack. Getty's going to get a big run of momentum from the top of the 45 Merak. Big move on the inside of the 31 of Brandon Holder. He's going to get it down there. 45 machine we think was saving fuel, and the 31 gets a big run. Bit of a shakeup though for the 58 of the Getty off of 4. That's I think going to cost the 45. Into 1 they go. 3 wide. Merak on the bottom, Holder in the middle. Getty on the top. They're both going to get by Holder and now move Bart Merak up into the 4th spot. Holder likely not going to be happy about that. He sets his sights on the 58.
Big moves there from that 45 of Bart Merak. He was not going to wait around. He knows he's going to try and close in. He's got the long run truck, but he needs to get this short run truck under his belt because he needs to close that gap to Townsend. We saw Townsend come from the back of the field up to 8 after that restart early on, so he knows that truck's got some pace early on. He's going to try and get it done now. That Edwards Getty is his next target in front of him. Britt not able to close the gap to Townsend. It seems like we saw this all before out in front, Randy. Townsend and Britt battle again.
Talking about the pace of that 45 machine, Jake, I am convinced that Bart was saving fuel all race long because his quickest laps in the early runnings were 22.9s, 23 flats. Here, since going back to green, he's done 2 22.7s back to back, and he's passing trucks. 58 of Edwards Getty is currently who he's setting his sights on now. And again, another 22.7. He doesn't have the ultra pace of a Chris J. Britt or the 83 of Travis Townsend just at the moment, but we know that 45 machine is strong over the course of the run. Question is, though, was the 45 only so good because he was underdriving the truck so much?
That's going to be something that he's going to have to answer himself later on, because if he knows that he can't do it, obviously just from saving fuel and he has that pace, then maybe he can't do it on the running flat out for 100% for the rest of this race. So we'll see how that actually plays into his hand or how it doesn't. But the 58, Getty going to the inside of the 4 into turn number 3. He's going to try and squeeze up and use everything he can last bit of the road. The 4 is going to get the momentum off the corner, and so is the 45. He's going to be there, and Merak might even thread the needle going into 1, and Getty shuts the door.
70 laps to go when they came across us right now down the back straightaway. The 45 Merak somewhat impeded by lap traffic. Down to the bottom though goes the 45 machine. We've seen this all night long. He likes that bottom edge of turns number 3 and 4. A little loose coming up off the corner, so he's going to lose a bit of momentum, and actually they're going to deal with a lap traffic. That's the 63 of Glenn Jamieson, who goes to the top side and lets everybody go. That's going to make them single files. They get a big run on the 4 of Britt again, going to get down to the inside, but can that 58 machine make the inside work the way the 45 can? To the bottom he goes. Will he be able to get the run and get clear of the 4 of Chris J. Britt? He's going to have a nose on him. Can he work the inside, though, again into 1 and 2? The 45 of Merak still sitting just behind, and he's going to think about threading this needle, Jake. Not going to quite get there. I think wisely backs out of it, considering the pace of that truck. All the while, all 3 of them catching Travis Townsend as the Getty gets the P2.
Townsend has no pace at the moment. It just seems to drop off as Merak goes to the inside of the 4. He can't get it done of Chris J. Britt. He's going to have to wait another time to see what he can do. So Getty goes to the inside of Townsend. This for the race lead now. I think he could be able to clear the 83 coming off the corner. I think he has a little bit of momentum pace off the corner for the 83 Townsend, but it's going to be no hope. But the 45 dives it down there. He's going to try to get 2 of them, and around he goes. Around goes the 45. Saved it.
But we have another yellow. Was that Bart, or did something else?
Yes.
That's interesting. I didn't think he was that far off pace. I didn't think that was going to cue a yellow.
I was surprised that it cued the yellow, but maybe because the truck went further than 90 degrees. I'm having a look now. Yeah, it went pretty close to 90 degrees. Could have been the reason that the caution come out, due to maybe spinning back in front of the rest of the field. But he only lost a couple of spots from that. Good save there from that 45 to not hit a fence.
Big question is, though, tire strategy. Who comes down, who doesn't? That was a short run. I wouldn't be surprised to see some people think about it. The 45, I think, has to. Zagetti, he wants new rubber. Townsend wants rubber. Britt, well, every tire strategy, everyone's coming down pit lane, except Sean Ryan, who I think Ryan's a lap down. So we have everyone coming down on a pit lane. So take that back. The only guys not pitting are people who are laps down. So Sean
Timmy
Ryan.
Jr. stayed out.
Logwood
then
Jr. stayed
92.
out. Good eye. Where was he actually running before that? He qualified himself 18th. He was P8. Question is he going to have the pace to be able to keep up here? But I definitely think these guys can all make it to the end. So I think if you're the 92, Jake, if you don't have the pace or you're going to be on old tires, I don't think there's any way you're going to hold on to the lead for 65 laps staying out here.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to make anything. Having a look points-wise, he might be trying to get inside that top 20 in case he gets a win next week, but it doesn't look like that's the case. And I think Townsend, did he get a speeding penalty? He did. Townsend has got a definite penalty at the moment because he is going to drop all the way to the back, so that is going to hurt Travis Townsend on this restart.
So disaster for the 83 at Townsend. Bart Marak, though, going to be super happy to see that. Maybe that's going to be at least one spot. Did he pick up any other spots through the pit cycle? He's ahead of Jason Seidlove now. So that's 2 spots for Bart Marak that we would have found under the caution period. Let's see when he comes across the stripe and we get the official timing update. He's going to be P7. So good for Mr. Bart Marak, Jake. That's a couple spots he needed after that half spin. A couple freebies are always good. Problem is, he's going to restart P7. That's where Logwood, take that back, Logwood Jr. comes in, and he's going to restart P6. And a couple of the fastest trucks all night are going to the back. Edward Zagetti, really, I think the other, kind of the other not a quickest truck of the night. But Bart Marak has had him covered.
Just having a look, Townsend's come back down pit road. I'm not 100% sure why.
We saw him. We had a bit of damage on that truck. If he's going to restart from the back, kind of will get that damage recovered. But he's going to start behind the lappers, won't he?
I don't know why he did that. It's an interesting call there from Townsend to come back down pit road, and he's definitely got some damage repair. He just came down and got that truck fixed, but I think that's just, I know obviously he's sped and he's going to be the back anyway, but I just think that's a bit of a bigger risk just to come down, because if any of these other guys, yes, to start behind, I don't think he will, but we'll see. It's just an interesting call there from Townsend to do that.
Handful of trucks also taking the wave around. That's going to be the 24 of Everett Lane, 71 of Bobby Everhart, and the 13 of Frank Gramuglia. They have opted not to pit here. But yeah, that is an interesting decision. And thinking back, Jake, we thought back to this isn't the only time we've seen Travis kind of maybe throw a race away by looking for, well, granted, I don't think he's a favorite to win, but he might just kind of isolate himself down near the tail end of the top 10, depending if he has to start behind the lappers or not. Think of Darlington last year. He got into an incident, he started to drive back through the field, and then in a couple of the later stages of the race, had a couple restarts. He opted to come down pit lane and take a bunch of repairs. I think you and I both agreed at the time Travis had a very good opportunity to win that race, and those repairs, I think, threw away that opportunity.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And he's sort of doing the same thing again, and he's got past short name Ryan, so it's going to put him in P9 for the restart. He should actually get past a couple of the other trucks, so he might be okay when we stack them up and get going again as the pace car lets those lap trucks by. So we'll be going green, and Zagetti with Holder on the high outside, who has just been struggling that last restart on that high side, so he won't want to be up there for too long. Brett, though, he's got some pace to burn, and so does that 45 of Bart Marak. We'll see what they can do.
Bart Marak will be restarting 5th. Wasn't he supposed to be 6th? Did someone else come down pit lane that we missed?
Timmy Logwood Jr.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah, I missed that. Yep, that is my mistake. I'm just not a smart human being. But regardless, lights out on the pace car. Going to be 61 laps to go here when they get back to green flag racing. 58 of Edward Zagetti in command of the field. Pace car will come down onto pit lane. 58 machine will get on that loud pedal now, and he gets a big jump. He actually caught out the 31 and the 32 up on the top side. They both tried to time it. They timed it wrong. Because of that, he's really not under any pressure into 1 and 2 now. Keeping an eye on the 45 machine of Marak, and he's going to deal with the 32 of Brent Keith as they come up off of 2. Not quite close enough to get there side by side just yet, but we see the 45 go down low. They're going to be side by side through the center of the corner. Can the 45 get the drive off? Bit of contact almost. Very tight margins there off of 4, Jake.
Oh, he was squeezing, and a bit more there was the 45 of Bart Marak. Holder had a dive at Edward Zagetti as well that time. He's now on the inside of the 4. Chris Brett coming off of turn 2. Marak going to the high side. That's an interesting position for that 45, and as I said, that actually ducks down to the middle groove, so he likes running down on the inside. He nearly clipped the outside wall, coming down, and Holder nearly joined him, combining in the middle, coming off of turn 4. They're racing very hard right now. They know it's winding down. They know they're going to get everything they can in this first restart.
45 and Marak, this has to be somewhat awkward for him as he's able to get that third spot cleared. He's been comfortable along the bottom all night long, but no one else has been. That has to be somewhat unnerving, knowing that there's a driver to your inside that you're racing with, and especially having those close moments. Now the 45 sets his sights on Chris J. Britt, who through the middle of the corner, we see Britt running that middle groove. Bart Marak again up against that yellow line that we've seen all night. The 58 is Zaghetti able to stretch a gap here because of all of this. 45 again all the way down to the inside. We saw this fight earlier on, Jake, between the 45 and the 4. Took a handful of laps for Bart to get that move done, but by the time he did, that's when his truck really came into pace. That's when he started running away from pretty much everyone.
Yeah, and that's where he might do the same again. It's going to be difficult to see if he can do it, though, because he is not saving tyres. So let's see. He's running around the middle groove at the moment, trying to close in on Chris J. Brett, and he can do that. Coming off the corner, actually, no, as I say that, he pancakes the right side of that truck, the 45. A lot of damage coming off of turn 4, a lot of no pace as well. Coming off that corner, the 31 to the inside, a big issue there from that 45 coming off of turn number 4.
And what will the pace be for that machine? Sometimes you can pancake the wall and get away with it. Other times it can completely ruin the speed of that truck. Still working the top side, which is where we know the 45 have been struggling all night, still fighting with Brandon Holder. And that's an interesting mistake for me, Jake, because that tells me that Bart's pushing when I don't think he needs to be. Because that truck was so good at the late stages of the run, I mean, he has 54, 55 laps of racing still left to go. He doesn't need to be pushing to get around all these guys. He can just sit and wait and use the time.
He can sit and wait and use it, but I think just the case that he now knows that he's got to push and he's not in that fuel save mode, he's just making these little mistakes, and it's hurting him at the moment because he's obviously, you pancake the right side of that truck coming off of turn 4. He's lost a lot of ground in Chris Brett. Now he's got the hungry pack behind him as Logwood Jr. goes to the inside of Brent Keith coming into turn 3. He's going to see whether he can get that job done coming off of the corner. So Marak's now got this hungry pack behind him, and Townsend's actually behind Logwood Jr. Not made as much pace as I thought after that restart.
No, he's not, and keeping an eye on the lap times, Bart Marak still has speed in that truck. Last time around, a 22.8 flat for Marak, a 22.86 for Britt just ahead, and a 22.95 for Zaghetti. So that 45 machine, even with that bit of damage, is fast. He just needs to stay calm, stay cool, stay collected, and I think Bart Marak is going to be the favorite here if this race goes green for a while. Into 1 and 2 they come, 51 laps left to go. Actually, no, I take that back, 52 laps left to go tonight. Down the back straightaway they come, into 3 and 4 they go once again. Most part up near the front, relatively single file. Britt is closing on the tail end of Zaghetti, and I think moves might start getting made here in a couple laps as the 32 of Keith makes a big move down to the inside and gets a spot away from the 31 of Holder.
He threw it down into turn number 1. He actually got him clear going down the front straightaway. Good move there from the 32. 92 now behind, and that's Logwood Jr., the 31 Holder, looking for another way past through 3 and 4. Not close enough. The leaders are close as well now out in front, Randy. I think they're going to start to get it on.
So leaders top 2 gonna be fighting into 1 and 2 this time. 50 laps to go, 75% race distance complete. 45 of Bart Marak continues to log laps behind. Last time by, top 2 identical laps of 23.030s. Edward Zaghetti a little bit higher through the middle of 3 and 4, and Chris J. Britt though able to run a little bit lower. Bart Marak still one of the quickest trucks out there on the racetrack. Last time around though, the top 2 were quicker. And Zaghetti, since that 4 machine has gotten there, Jake, the 58 machine has found a little bit of pace and been able to just maintain that gap for now.
Maintaining the gap, but here comes Logwood Jr. in that 92, having a good solid run to the inside of that 32 of Brent Keith coming off of turn 4, not able to keep the nose. He's got it there, he's going to drop back in the line, and here comes Townsend on the attack into 1 and 2, that 83 truck. He's going to try and use every bit of road that he can and not able to get it done. These trucks, about 6 of them, 7 of them at the moment if you include Size Love, all pretty much even on pace, and no one's able to show the nose and get it done.
Well, the 4 machine showed the nose off of 4, and I think there may have been a little bit of touch. He was side by side just on the exit of corner number 4, but he wasn't quite able to get there. Zaghetti managed to shut the door. This time, though, the 4 machine manages to hook one of those bumps really well. It gets a good bit of speed through the middle of 1 and 2, but not quite able to get alongside yet. big head of steam on the entry into 3 and 4, though. They're going to be side by side. Can Britt maintain the momentum? No, a little bit snappy, loose and behind. We got a truck spinning around. Who is that? That's the 92, Logwood Jr. He goes around. Did he have help?
That's an interesting one there for the 92.
Caught one of the bumps.
Now, caught one of the bumps, sending around, and then Townsend just clipped him and sent him even further around, and that was all she wrote for that 92, and that's going to hurt him for this restart. He'll definitely come down and get some tyres, I'd say, for that one, but just unfortunately, this one got loose in the middle of the corner.
I think if you're Bart Marak, though, Jake, you have to be very happy with this because you get a chance to come down pit lane. You're going to, you know, if there's a damage to that 45 machine, you can take repairs if you so choose. Honestly, though, I think it's in the 45's best interest just to not even do that. Just get the new rubber. Don't worry about the damage you have. You seem to still have good pace. Still 45 laps of this race to go. If it goes long, I think the 45 machine's still the favorite.
It's going to be interesting now that you've actually shortened up the window. I think that the 58 might be a little bit more stronger on that shorter run. So we'll see how it all pans out coming down pit road now, whether he tries to get that damage repaired, because if he does, he's going to put him a long way behind around 13th.
That's part of the, you know, part of my rationale here. You know, it is still a good chunk of racing left, about 40 laps, and what we've seen from the 45, that's about the window where he starts to open it up. If we get another caution, I think the 45 machine is going to be relatively tough. The 58, very slow pit stop for him. Bart Marak going to come out in front. What happened to Zaghetti? He lost a bunch of spots.
Big mistake there from the 58. Having a look back at that one now.
Did he just miss his bots? Very slow pit time, 17.4. It doesn't look like he missed it. Did he not have the truck in the box at first? Because he's at a very, you know, sharp angle here. I think he stopped too early rather than too late. Yeah, that back right corner of the truck, I think, is over the yellow line. He had to move that truck forward just a little bit. One of the big risks you can take. It was enough, though. You got to be over the line, especially when you're dealing with an automated system like we have in the sim. If you're not perfect, you got it wrong. And Bart Marak, he took the race lead under that. Well done. He jumped everybody.
That was a quick pit stop from that 45, but yeah, just not in the box enough, and that's all she wrote for the 58. 12.7 pit stop for Marak. That has to be one of the quickest I've seen for a long time.
Super quick pit stop for 4 tires. I'm not actually sure, Jake. You might know. Is the pit stop time, is it limited mostly by fuel or by tires?
By tires, usually your fuel's sort of done and get it done out of the way. So it's usually tires. You wait for that right side to come down, you go. You wait for that left side to come down, mind you. And then you go. You don't really worry about whether the fuel can's still in it. You just get it going. So definitely one of the fastest stops I've seen for a long time. 12.7 stop for 4 tires. That's quick, and that's why he jumped everyone. Usually looking around that 13-odd second stop. Being in third, obviously Zaghetti had his issues, but being sort of third, the only truck he had to worry about was the 4. He easily jumped in by a couple of tenths.
This is big for Bart Marak to be able to do what he just did, come back out with the race lead, jump 2 spots, and I think he may have done it at the most appropriate time, because right now he's roughly equal pace with the 4 of Chris Britt. I don't think Britt's going to be able to get to him and make a move and make the 45, you know, drop back to second place, even if that 4 machine is so much better on a quick run. I think the 45 will be able to hold on to that race lead after we get this restart. The 4 machine, he's gonna have to try to do it on a slightly deeper run, Jake, and we saw it do that first, you know, phase of the race. No one could keep up with that 45. If you're the 4 machine, are you praying for another quick yellow?
You're either praying for another quick yellow or you're hoping it goes around 10 to 15 odd laps and then get another yellow. I think that'll definitely help the 4 and everyone else trying to fight back that 45, because if it goes the distance from here, I think the 45, like you said, being in the position he is in now, he being the leader, he can dictate this restart, get out to a couple of car lengths and then just comfortably try and run his own race. And that's sort of what he wants, and at the moment that's sort of what everyone doesn't want, because of the way that truck went away in that early stint. It's going to hurt everyone else for the long game, so we'll see what he does now on this restart, and if he can hold him off, he might be in a good shot for this one.
So here's the top 10 as they roll off. Bart Marac and Chris Britt, they make up the front row. Holder and Keith, row 2. Stuart Townsend, row 3. Zagetti and Sizlov, row 4. Of course, Zagetti, the big loser on that last round of pit stops. Sean, Ryan, and Brent Day, row number 5, top 10 as they restart. Bart Marac, though, will be the one in command of the field. iRacing pace car coming back down onto pit lane. 45 of Bart Marac in command of the field. He waits. He gets a jump for Chris J. Britt. Not that great on the loud pedal. The 45 gets a big head of steam over the rest of the field, Jake. He's going to be completely uncontested into 1 and 2 for the first time.
Yeah, good jump there from the 45. That was what he needed. He's got a couple of track legs now over the 4 of Chris J. Britt to the inside of Holder. Oh, he's on the outside. Sorry, is Townsend having a big push. Maybe 3 wide through the middle of 3 and 4. And Holder's now going to be the inside of Keith. Townsend has nowhere to go, but he's got pace to burn and a couple of tenths already. 4 tenths for the race lead between Marac and Britt.
16 of Bobby Stewart has done a good job, by the way, of bouncing back from that mistake entering pit lane. 1.2 laps down. He currently runs 6th. Those yellows, the way they fell, really helped that 16 machine. Now, coming up off of 4, Brandon Holder still side by side with Brent Keith and the 83 of Townsend the way he sits. See, he's going to, on the entry to the corner, he has a bit of a shorter way around the racetrack down there. Going to have the advantage on the bottom, but coming up and off, the 32 of Keith going to have the momentum. The 83 of Townsend wants to make a move on Keith, Jake, but nowhere to go because of the 31 of Holder. Right now, if you're Townsend, you either have to get clear of the 31 somehow, or you actually want the 31 to pick up the spots in front of you.
Or you just force the issue. It's sort of one of those situations where the Townsend's really stuck at the moment. He's going to try and figure out what he's going to do. He knows that 31 is trying to get the spot. He just can't down on the inside. So the 83 now that they've sort of got the clear of 32 of Keith, he needs to try and go around the high side or try and let the 31 back in and then duck down yourself, and that's what he's going to do coming off of turn number 4. And here comes the 83 at Townsend now on the preferred line into turn number 1 and 2. You should be able to clear that 31 coming off the corner. He got a little bit tight and loose in the middle of the corner. Wanted to drift up as he saved it. He's going to lose that momentum and have to slot him behind. Actually, as I say that, he's going to go for another dig through 3 and 4. Stewart, the watching brief.
Working the Marac line down against the bottom, and the 31 of Holder doesn't get a big head of steam. 16 of Bobby Stewart is going to follow Travis Townsend down to the bottom into 1 and 2. Actually, the 16 of Stewart working a little bit more towards the middle of the racetrack. The 31 of Holder, though, really pinches them off. So Stewart's going to get the position from the 31, and the 16 not quite able to get the job done. Down to the bottom, though, goes that Lucas Oil machine once again. And again, not quite able to get the job done. He should try to cycle up in front of Zagetti. Actually, he's not going to. He's going to stay a little bit low. Zagetti comes up on the top side with a bit of a run, and will that 58 machine be able to hook that outside line and clear the 16 of their side by side? Looking out front, the 4 has caught the back of the 45. The 32 of Brent Keith is there as well. Those 2 GBR cars, Jake, very, very quick. Marac just needs to hold on, though, as long as he can.
Just needs to hold on for a little bit longer. It's sort of coming down where he just doesn't want to see a caution. He doesn't want to see those 2 trucks behind him. But at the moment, that's what he's got. So the 4 is there, the 32 is there. Zagetti now having a look on Holder. This is for that 5th position. He's there. He's not close enough. He's close enough. He just hasn't got that nose stand inside like he wanted to. Get it down into 3 and 4, and he's going to have to sit in behind. Everyone pretty much single file now for the top 7 to 8 trucks. And this battle for the lead, Marac, he's out there. He's just keeping him honest, is Britt, and that's all he needs to do at the moment. Maybe force a mistake from that 45 out in front.
4 and 32. They had about a 2-lap window when there, Jang, where I think they had a significant pace advantage over Tim Marlowe. That was an awkward click on the pit lane, but over Bart Marac. The 4 and the 32, though, they seem to have just evened out. They're a little bit quicker, but not much. They don't have that pace advantage they had. And because of that, I don't think you can get around that 45 if you're just running the same times roughly, even if you try to force a move. Behind, though, the 58 of Zagetti fights with Holder, and there was a little bit of contact. I think Holder had to get out of it. I think Zagetti a little over aggressive getting the move done, wasn't quite clear, and because of that he forced Holder to get out of the throttle. That's 2 spots lost, though, for Holder. He's actually going to work the cutback on the 16 of Bobby Stewart. He wants P6 back.
Yeah, they're going to fight hard for that position. Holder wants it, and going to be a little bit of red mist in that one after that. Just a little bit of a squeeze coming off the corner. And the 58, he'll have some red mist after that little mistake on pit road that sort of put him behind the 8 ball at the moment. Now down into 5th position, but out in front, Marac is holding on actually quite nicely, Randy. And I'm surprised. I knew that Britt and them were going to be quick, but I thought they had that little bit of an edge over that 45, but he's just, this is sort of the phase now where I think that 45 might be able to just skip ahead a little bit more, because he's now got a couple of tenths more of an advantage, 3 tenths now at the line.
Last time by, he was able to stretch that by about another 1/10.5. So that gap is starting to get to the point where it's growing more and more and more. The 83 of Townsend goes down to the bottom. And actually looking at the pace, Jake, Townsend might be Merak's biggest rival here coming to the end. We're inside of 30 laps to go. The 23 flat for Merak last time by, 22.9 for Townsend, 22.8 actually for Zaghetti. That 58 machine is very, very quick right now as well. If those two can maintain that pace compared to the 45, I think they have the time that they could get there, and that could become a fantastic three-way fight to the end. Townsend needs to get through Brett, and Zaghetti needs to get through both Brett as well as Keith.
Yeah, I think definitely that 58 has the pace to do so. It just depends on how quickly he can do it. He nearly drilled the back of the 32 through 1 and 2 in the leader. That's Merak trying to get around Aaron Ames, and that's brought Britt into this one, and Britt's going to door the 72 of Aaron Ames out of the way. The 83 of Townsend now to the inside. This is going to give him all that momentum going into 1 and 2, and that's going to give Townsend the position, but a little bit of a lap traffic there getting in the way, and as I say, that Britt's going to fight it back coming off of turn number 2.
Yeah, that's a bit of an interesting one there from Aaron Ames, Jake, because I think he got target fixated on his mirror a little bit because he just didn't track out a 2. He just sort of cut the exit really, really tight, and, you know, whenever you have a truck inside of you like that, especially when it's the race leader, they're always going to arc it out to the wall. So a very tight moment there for Bart Merak, who hasn't gotten a win yet in the regular season. He won the All-Star race. He's come antagonizingly close a couple times. It would have been, I think, heartbreak for him to get caught up in an incident with lap traffic this close to the end, leading 25 laps to go, and knowing that the next 4 drivers behind you are fighting hard. Zaghetti gets 4th away from Brent Keith, though, out of 4. Into 1 they go. Zaghetti now sets his sights on the 83.
Zaghetti did something similar that he did to Holder to Keith that time round. Zaghetti is not letting up. He wants that first place. He's going to push and keep pushing as hard as he can to get it done. Townsend having a look at Brett, not close enough though to see this time round if he can get it done, and I think that could be where Townsend, that little bit of a gap that he had and was able to close down there, Randy, I think that's all she sort of wrote for that truck in terms of overall faster pace than everyone else, because Zaghetti has closed right up on him. He might actually have a look going down into turn number 3 and 4. He's not close enough to throw it down the inside this time.
Not close enough yet, but if you're seeing that 83 slowly fall away, you know you're going to be able to get there. Someone who just put in a fantastic lap is a 4 of Chris Britt, because Bart was about 2 tenths off that time, probably made a mistake at some point. 23.2 basically for the 45, and a 23 flat for Britt. About a 1/10.5 was the difference there. Everyone else in the 1s and 2s, the 4 machine seems to have hit a little bit of a window where he had impressive pace. Let's see what he's going to be able to do this time through. Or will the pace actually equal off? It's going to be a 23.1, so the pace for everyone pretty much equalizing. 23 flat for Merak that time around. Flats actually for Zaghetti, Townsend, and, well, no, not Keith. I thought he may have, but no, I take that back. 58 and the 83, though, they fight coming to 20 laps to go.
This is a great battle for the lead between these top 4. You can't forget Keith, just a couple of truck lanes back though in that 5th spot, just not close enough at the moment. Zaghetti is really hustling the back of Townsend to try and, I don't know whether to make him sort of make a move or tell him, if you're not going to make a move, I'm going to make a move, because he had another look through 1 and 2. So that 58 is definitely looking around, trying to see where his pace is that little bit better than that 83, so that he can maybe make that move. And as I say that 45 is starting to get a couple of truck lanes now as the 58 goes to the inside.
Zaghetti goes down to the bottom of the 83 of Travis Townsend. And how hard does Townsend fight it? We know Travis races smart, and it actually might be a situation where he's better off letting the 58 through and letting the 58 try to get to the 4 and then follow him through, and then again get to your race leader. But they're going to stay side by side. The 83 of Townsend wants the spot, and the top side is going to reign supreme. Zaghetti going to have to get back single file here as they work themselves and continue to count down laps. And then 45's advantage, Jake, that we've seen all night, starting to come into play, because he is starting to stretch that gap lap after lap after lap.
Yeah, he's just starting to stretch it a little bit now, and it's coming into his window. We're within 20 laps to go, actually 18 laps to go at the moment, so we'll see what he can do this time round. Out in front, Marak, a 23.243 compared to that time of Britt, which is a 23.225. So everyone's sort of running around that same pace, and there's not really that much difference. It was just that little bit of a window. He was able to pull out 0.4 of a second, and it's still running different lines, and it just goes to show Marak running that inside line, that's where he's comfortable, and that should be why he's out in front.
He's able to maintain the tires down there. Normally people not, that's really where people say they try to avoid when they're talking about the tire strategy. Looking at everyone by, though, Travis Townsend a 10th or so quicker than your leader. Chris J. Britt half a 10th or so quicker. So Marak isn't really pushing this car very hard. I don't think he has any reason to. He can just sit out front, and all he has to do is run an equal speed right now, Jake. He doesn't have to be faster than all those guys. He can kind of Fangio it out there in front. Knowing there's no point in driving the car faster than everyone else. You can just match their speed, knowing they won't be able to catch you. Or was it Sterling Moss who said that? Either Moss or Fangio.
One of them, I can't remember exactly who, but I know one of them did say it. And that's right. It's at that point of the race, and I still don't know how he's done it. Sitting down on that inside, as Zaghetti has another look on Townsend, that he can just go down to that inside. And I've driven this track a lot. You want to go to that high side, but Zaghetti just running down that inside line, and it seems to be working for him. It's like an old school sort of a habit, running down on that low line. I used to do it before until I moved up to that middle to high groove to avoid those bumps. And as I say that, Britt got loose. Wow.
We're not done yet. They're going to be 4 wide almost into 3.
Wow.
How are they going to be able to get away from this one? The 58 is Zaghetti.
3 wide. Oh.
4th in the wall. And they're going to stay green. The 4 gets into the wall. Who gets into the second place? It's going to be Travis Townsend. What a move from him. He started that lap, I think, in 4th. He was actually, no, I take that back. He was in 3rd. He gets up to 2nd. The 58 is Zaghetti, though. He's able to get up into 3rd. They're going to stay side by side. And most notably, Jake, Marak just gets given a near 2-second lead, as those two are almost going to drive themselves up into the wall. So up and off the corner they come, as we seem to have lost Jake. The 58 is Zaghetti inside of the 83 at Townsend. The fight for the race win is now off. It's now the fight for second between these two drivers of Zaghetti and Townsend. Into 3 and 4 they come side by side again. Zaghetti trying to work the middle. He's going to push a little bit of contact again. 83 at Townsend going to get sent up to the top. He has to get off of the throttle, and now he's going to have to work with the 32 of Brent Keith, trying to hold him off. That's the 3rd or 4th time we've seen Zaghetti make that same exact move. Coming out of corner number 4, he'll just use the back leading edge of that tailgate, trailing edge, let me say, rather, and just sort of drive it up into the front of the driver in front of them and really make them lift when he's not really quite clear. He now has that second spot away from Travis Townsend, but Townsend, we know, very, very quick, very, very aggressive. I don't think the 58 is out of the woods just yet. Inside of 10 laps to go. Now up and off of 2 they come. Marak continues to just enjoy his 2.5 margin of victory as the 58 and the 83 continue to duke it out here. Up and off of 4, down the front straightaway they come. And I think Townsend has a bit of a run. Into 1 and 2. Quickly approaching 5 laps to go. Up and off the corner, Zaghetti needs to try to maintain that gap to the 83 at Townsend, because 83 is going to be very, very aggressive in terms of getting there. Bit of a mistake, though, from one of them. They scraped the wall coming up off of corner number 4. And that's going to open up the gap just a little bit. I believe it was Townsend. It was a 10th quicker for Edward Zaghetti last circuit around the racetrack. Going to be 6 laps to go at the line. And is Townsend going to be able to get there? Actually, maybe not. I think Townsend's truck has fallen off. We talked about that all night. The fact that Townsend only, once we got to the middle stage of the run, Townsend didn't really have the speed of anybody else. And I think we've just gotten to the point where we're at that middle stage of the run. He's currently fighting with Brent Keith for 3rd right now. The 23.7 last time by for the 83 at Townsend, so he has lost the pace there in that machine. Up and off of 4 he comes now. Will he be able to equalize? Will he be able to stabilize? A 23.65 for Townsend, a 7.4 as well for Brent Keith. Two have gotten themselves sorted then. All eyes inside of 5 laps to go is on that fight for 3rd. into 3 and 4, and the 32 at Keith, I think, definitely has the pace advantage here. But where is he going to open the door for himself? 4 laps to go. They come across the stripe, down into the start-finish straight, and into 1 and 2. Last time by, both were within 200ths of a second. The 83, scary loose up off the corner, and this might be Brent Keith's one and single opportunity here of the night to get by the 83, but he doesn't capitalize. I think he should have slung that truck down to the bottom of the racetrack and tried to get clear of Travis Townsend. Travis in the 83 had no momentum through the center of the corner. 3 laps to go at the line, and the 83 at Townsend is struggling for grip. Marak continuing to deal with lap traffic. Doc Stout is who he just got himself around. 13 of Gramuglia will be out in front of him, but I don't think he's going to get there. Going to be 2 laps for him when he gets to the start-finish line. Townsend and Keith, though, is the fight we're watching inside of 2 laps to go. Jake, these guys are digging it out hard. We still don't seem to have Jake, but regardless, up and off of 3 and 4 for the penultimate time. White flag for the 45 of Bart Marak is in the air. 1 lap to go around this 7/8 mile oval. Fight for 3rd and 4th is also equalized, and most of the field have gotten themselves spread out and pretty much sorted. Brent Keith, though, going to be a big move for him to try to get to the 83 of Travis Townsend, but it's a couple tenths of a second advantage that he has to try to reel back in. But if you're the 45 of Bart Marak, for the first time this season after being so strong, you win the I Stand with Folds of Honor 200 here at Iowa, sponsored by Raven Grafixx. Jake, what a run for the 45 of Bart Marak.
Yeah, well done to Bart Marak in that 45. Obviously, I wasn't able to see that whole run towards the end, but a great drive from Marak, and he just got it done when it counted. He deserves that win. He's been fighting hard all season long, and he won that All-Star race, and now he's able to get one in the actual season.
The thing that's great for him is he's going to lock himself into the chase with that one. He was in 8th, and he had a big advantage over Bobby Stewart, who is next in line in the points. Basically 100-point advantage is what Bart Marak had over that 16 machine. He was likely safe regardless, but getting this win, not only ensuring that he locks himself into the chase, but knowing now that he doesn't have to worry about having a few bad runs. So the 45 machine will start to burn him down on your front straightaway. And let's go down now. Your post-race results for the Raven Grafixx I Stand with Folds of Honor 200. Big race win for the 45 of Bart Marak, who comes away with the win, 0.8 of a second over Edward Zaghetti. Travis Townsend, after a hard fight with Brent Keith, will come 3rd, Brent Keith 4th, and Brandon Holder rounds out your top 5. Bobby Stewart comes home in 6th, Chris Britt 7th, Brent Day 8th, Timmy Logwood Jr. 9th, and Sean Ryan rounds out your top 10. Everett Lane 11th was Frank Gramuglia in 12th, 13th. Doc Stout, now we get into your trucks that are a lap down. Doc Stout, the first of those. Aaron Ames, 2 laps down in 14th. Jason Sizlove, 4 laps down in 15th. 16th, Bobby Everhart. 17th, James Torrey. 18th, we have Glenn Jameson. 19th, we have Brad Neer. 20th, Tim Marlowe. Sean Miller, William Toney, Doyle Lawrence, and Travis Turnmeyer round out the 24 truck field tonight. Don't go away. Post-race coverage and interviews coming through in just a moment. We'll be back in just a couple of moments' time. Don't go away.
Introducing a whole new form of racing to the best online racing simulation in the world. This is Dirt Racing on iRacing.com. Race online at some of America's most legendary dirt tracks, including Eldora and Williams Grove. iRacing is the premier online racing game featuring NASCAR, IndyCar, sports cars, and now World of Outlaws, the leading sanctioning body for dirt racing. iRacing is easy to use and features a centralized ranking system to make sure you have the best experience at any skill level. With a massive inventory of high-precision laser scan tracks and cars with an unmatched dedication to quality and detail, iRacing gives you the most authentic online racing experience available. Thanks to iRacing's dynamic track system, developed specifically for dirt racing, tracks change over the course of a race, just like your favorite dirt track on a Friday or Saturday night. From a slick racing groove all the way up to the cushion, iRacing's dirt tracks deliver non-stop racing action. Partnered with the World of Outlaws, iRacing is your source for the most authentic dirt racing experience available, featuring 4 brand new tracks and 11 new cars, including street stocks, Legends cars, late models, NASCAR trucks, winged and non-winged sprint cars, with much more on the way. Join the Dirt Revolution on iRacing.com and start slinging mud today.
Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive as post-race coverage begins of your I Stand with Folds of Honor 200, brought to you by Raven Graphics. Randy Chinnett, Jake Blackhall bring you all the post-race action tonight, and let's get it started with the sponsor message for your race winner. That's Mr. Bart Morak. And as the team speak is going to annoy itself somewhat annoyingly and prevent me from dragging people for an awkward couple of moments, we're now joined by Bobby Stewart as well as Bart Morak. Bobby, big win for Bart, first win of the season for him, excluding the All-Star race. What do you got to say to that 45?
Yeah, Bart, well, on behalf of Raven Graphics, with the Folds of Honor 200, just want to say congratulations. I know you've been a bridesmaid a few times, and glad to see you nail one down. I know that's been something you want to get off your chest, so congratulations, and just glad I stuck around. All the sponsors left, so I'm glad I stuck around to do the presentation for you. You deserved it. Good run.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thanks for joining us, Bobby. Unfortunate for you from pole to come away in the 6th spot, but good luck to you out next week at Twin Ring Motegi, as you're not quite locked in just yet, so you're not safe. Hope to see you run strong.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
So, Bart, finally, as Bobby just said, getting that win off your back and now getting it here fairly late in the season. Somewhat unfortunately, you're pretty much, I think, already guaranteed locked into the show, even if you didn't pull. I think you could have pretty much no-showed this week as well as next week with the point advantage you had over the likes of Silo, Marlowe, Stout, and everyone else from 13th through 20th. But still, getting that win late in the season, how'd it feel?
Wow, it feels really good. I mean, it's like a monkey off my back.
Now, Bart, first things first, I have a couple questions to ask. First thing I want to talk about is the line you ran. We saw everyone else all night. They pretty much preferred, especially through 3 and 4, they liked that middle groove from there basically up to the top is where we saw pretty much everyone running tonight. You were pretty much the sole truck running down against that yellow line. How were you able to keep your truck down there and maintain speed?
Well, you know, I didn't run a lap at this place until Saturday. And I started running the bottom, so I set my truck up for the bottom, and you know, when everybody was running the top, I was kind of surprised. So, you know, I kind of had the same speed as them, so I wanted to try it out. I ended up being pretty good off turn 4. I had a lot of speed.
Also talking about that, normally, you know, in this championship, when we go to most of the cookie cutters, whenever tire strategy is a big concern, you know, usually people will start moving up to the top of the racetrack earlier and earlier and earlier. We saw that last week at Kansas when the 58 of the Getty managed a way to come away with the win. Everyone who had a good long run truck was going to the top super early. How are you able to maintain the tires on that truck while running the bottom? That for a lot of people and at a lot of racetracks is kind of a contradiction there. Normally going to the bottom ends up eating your stuff up quicker.
I don't know. I just set it up that way, and I gave up a little bit in turn 1, but it was so good off turn 4. I couldn't run the top. I had trouble running the top. Everybody up there, they were fast, and I was off the pace, so I had to do something different.
And talking about the strategy, Bart, everyone else, you know, through that first phase, we got that early caution, but we were green then basically from about, you know, lap 20 or so to a very significant part of the race. I can't remember how long of a run that was. It was near 100 some odd laps.
Yeah, I went to 103 because I cut it in half there so I could make it. I knew I could do 97 laps on fuel. So when we had that early yellow, I saved gas and made it to that point. But I ran out of gas coming into the pits. I coasted all the way through the pit to the pit lane.
Yeah, I caught that. And now, talking about that, were you surprised no one else tried that? Because everyone everyone else just sort of, they ran hard, and I think actually through that first phase of the race, you likely, I think, were saving a bit of fuel through that first run as well, because after that caution about lap 125, and when you came back out on the racetrack, you were going a lot quicker after that yellow than you were before. Were you surprised no one else took note of that and tried it, or were you actually, do you think everyone else would be surprised that anyone would have tried it?
I don't think it was a possibility until we had that first yellow and then the long green flag run. I mean, it wasn't something anybody thought about just because of the situation. You would thought you would had more yellows in there, or weren't, if it would went green the whole way, we would have been 6 laps short.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Bart. Congrats on the win tonight. Strong run. I would argue you out-thought the field every single way. You had the best truck on the long run. Short run, you were a little bit weak, but it didn't matter because of the long runs tonight. You out-strategized people, and you managed to make that truck work on different parts of the racetrack than everybody else. I think probably the most impressive race we've seen all season long. Congratulations on the big win here at Iowa with just one race left in your regular season.
Thank you.
So, Bart, go ahead.
I just want to thank some people.
Shout outs. Who'd you like to thank? I forgot that bit. I always forget something.
That's no problem. I want to thank Brent Keith for the setup this week. He really kind of hit it on the head. I tuned it in, but it just worked really well for me. And the other teammates on Glove Box there, they really support me in this. And I want to thank Cameron Wilson of Wet Paint. We have Hall of Fame Raven Grafixx, IFX, and Bobby Stewart for everything he does. He puts up with a lot of stuff from guys, and he really does such great stuff. I really like being in this series. Enjoy every minute. RaceSpotTV, you guys are great, and I just want to say thank you to the fans too. Anybody watching, that's the people that make it happen too.
That they do. We always have to thank the viewers. But thanks for joining us, Bart. Good luck next week at Motegi.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to be joined by the second place finisher of Edward Zaghetti. And let's see how it works. Jake, you're stood by with the 58 if I don't have to step in.
Yeah, I'll be stood by with the 58. Are we all good? Hopefully we're all good. I don't know how great it is at the moment.
You sound fine on this end.
Alright, that's alright then, as long as it's all working. Zaghetti, strong run throughout that entire race. You led early on. Just couldn't see the deal. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, it got held up there at the end, and actually that pit cycle, I don't know why it didn't change the tires, and wound up going in first and coming out 7th, so that set me back there. But other than that, I mean, I had a really good set. A few more laps, I would have had them, maybe. But good win. Hey, Bart, good win. You deserve it, man.
It was a great drive from Bart Murak and yourself. You definitely had that. You were able to carve up through that field, and that little mistake on pit road, like you mentioned, well, me and Randy reckon it was just because it wasn't in the box enough, and as soon as you rolled it in, just that little bit, that right side got into the box, and it all went through with it. So it's like you just that little bit earlier being a bit cautious, but it's one of those things that it's those 5%ers, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't win them all, I guess. But it was definitely a fun race. I gotta say hats off to Chris. Good racing. Brandon Townsend again. We were sort of getting together here a lot, so I appreciate his clean racing, and I did get into him a little bit and just want to apologize to him.
That's the hard racing that you guys had out there, because it was chaotic up in front. But how was your truck handling with the different lines? Obviously, Bart was running that low line. That's just where his truck was working. Obviously, you were running the majority of everyone else running around that high side. How did your truck actually feel out there? Because a lot of trucks were getting loose coming off the 3 and 4 if they got it wrong a little bit out of the groove. Was it really just one groove that you could run, or especially your truck looked like you could throw it wherever you wanted?
Yeah, there turns 3 and 4, middle lane to high lane, I was pretty good. Turns 1 and 2, I could do the high lane, but it felt comfortable. It rolled nice in the middle on the low line. So once the tires got a little heat in them, then the low line was good for me.
It's definitely one of those tracks that just dictates what line you have, and you're already locked in with that win that you got last week. Now you head to Twin Ring. What's your feelings for next week? It's sort of obviously going to be new for us and everyone else. How are you feeling heading into next week?
I feel pretty good. I got a good set underneath for there as well, and well, we'll see. There's like I said, there's a lot of good drivers here, and it's going to take a fight to get to the end.
It's definitely going to be a fight, especially next week at Twin Ring Motegi. So well done again, Edward, on a really strong run after your win last week, coming home with the second place. Any shout outs, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yes, I'd like to thank my teammates Sean Miller, Aaron, Brent, Ivan for his help. He's been an asset to our team, and Raven Grafixx, IFX, GBR, especially Bobby, and you guys as well. It's always fun to go back and watch the race. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward, and good luck next week, and hopefully we can talk to you then.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you, Edward Zaghetti, coming home in the second position here tonight. And Randy, I'll chuck it over to you, Travis Townsend.
Yeah, I'm stood by with the 83 machine. Travis, first thing I have to ask, you and Tim Marlowe decided not to qualify tonight. For you, we talked about this at the start of the show. Wasn't as big a risk for you because you were pretty much locked in, but for Tim, considering his bubble position, pretty big risk for him. What was the logic there behind that for you guys?
I actually had some issues and didn't get in the room until about a minute and a half before the race went off. So because of that, I was forced to start there in the back. It definitely wasn't my choice to do that on a track like this. With how important track position is, that was the last place I wanted to be.
So definitely unfortunate for you there. Some technical issues making you struggle, but let's talk about this tonight. 200 laps here at Iowa, such a physical racetrack. How was that 83 machine hooked up?
Well, it was a disappointing night. I felt really good coming into this race. I thought I had a setup really dialed in, and that very first caution, lap 3 or 4 or whatever it was, I got a little bit of damage on the right front. From that point on, I just couldn't rotate the center like I needed to, and then because of that and all the extra wheel I was having to put in it, it was starting to snap loose on the exit on the longer run. So it was frustrating. I was glad to bring it home, P3. Overall, it's a good night, good points day, but I felt like I really had a truck that could contend for the win here tonight.
Now, I want your opinion. You're a past champion. How do you think these guys, what's going to be the mindset of some of these drivers that aren't locked into the chase, and some of the people that are going to need a big week next week at Motegi? You talk about Doc Stout. He was on the bubble coming into today, and he sort of had an average night. Qualified 20th, finished 13th. I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see him drop out of the top 12 here after this. Tim Marlowe as well, like we said, started alongside you in 24th, comes away in 20th. Both those guys bubble spots, but they're going to be close regardless. And there's some people who want to get themselves in, some other people who want to really solidify themselves in. What do you think the mindset of those guys is going to be going into next week at Motegi?
Oh, it's going to be wild. Everybody's going to have a different strategy. I'm lucky, with where I'm sitting, that I can go in without much stress and just kind of race my race. Try not to affect those guys too much, but really enjoy the show to an extent. I want to do well and have the momentum going into the chase, but some of those guys are going to be in a must-win situation. So when you're in that position, man, you got to do what you got to do. If it comes down to dumping somebody there at the end of the race, to win a race or something like that, it could definitely happen. So it'll be wild to see kind of how the points shake out and where everybody's sitting and who is kind of in a must-win position and who's in a need to finish strong kind of position. But there's going to be a handful of guys that are going to be desperate for a win.
Now, my second question to you as the defending champion. A lot of people have really kind of upped their game here through the second half of the championship. Britt has been on a roll. Zaghetti seems to be quick week in and week out. Brent Keith has found a bit of speed. And Bobby Stewart has made it a habit of coming away with pole positions and fantastic qualifyings here towards the tail end of this championship. Bart's, of course, always quick. Handful of drivers that aren't making it easy for you the way we saw last season. What is your approach, knowing that there's maybe a lot more competition going into the chase this season than last?
I'm just got to be that much more focused, that much more dialed in, because with having 5, 6, 7 guys on any given track that can win the race, you slip one time, on one of these late restarts, and instead of maybe losing one spot and being able to overcome that, makes it a lot harder. I mean, you give up 3, 4, 5 spots, with one little mistake, and you're almost buried. It's almost impossible with the level of talent and the speed that these guys are bringing to the table week in and week out. You really got to be on your A game every week in this chase. So it's going to be a challenge, that's for sure. But I'm looking forward to it, to see what I can do to hopefully defend this championship.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight, Travis. Congratulations on the third place run. I know that these last couple races have probably been a formality for you in some ways. Just want to get that chase underway. But good luck to you next week in Japan. Any shout-outs? Anyone you'd like to thank?
Well, I appreciate it, and I'd like to thank my teammates at Cascade Hollow Motorsports. Like I said, I had a really strong truck tonight. I was just kind of disappointed to get caught up in that first incident and lose a little bit of speed there. Also, my sponsor, Killer Prototyping and Design, Bobby Stewart, and everything that he does here for the league, Raven Grafixx, Innovative FabWorks, and everybody else who makes this happen for us.
All right, well, thanks for joining us again, Travis. See you out there next week.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Now we're going to throw it over to Jake. You're stood by with the 32 of Brent Keith.
Yeah, I'm going to be stood by with a 32 of Brent Keith. And Brent, it was a strong run, qualified on the outside of that row. Was sort of just sitting, floating around inside that top 5. Had a good clear view of all the battles going in front of you. Tell us about how all that went down.
Right, yeah, front seat, front row for all that. It was really, might not have looked that intense, but I know Bart had his dialed in. Chris and I kind of ran a little something different, kind of tweaked it just to, just testing a little bit. But it went real good, first 20 laps, and then it would fall off, and it would just get too tight. And there at the end, it loosened up with some tire pressure and just run out of laps, and kind of was content to run where I was at and not ruin a good day. But it was overall good race. Congrats to Bart. Like to see that. He runs a lot of laps with us.
Yeah, it was definitely a real good race for GBR all around, and sort of you guys running up front. I know Sizesub was up there for most part of his race as well, just floating around inside that top 10. And for you, that little adjustment and that little change, if you made that earlier, could you have done something to try and challenge for them if you could have got there?
With all the laps we run, later in the run, when we always practice, we practice with 5, 6, 7 guys. We don't have 30 trucks on the track, so it's kind of hard to simulate the tire wear, even though if you crank up the track state. But kind of a little apprehensive to loosen it up too soon, because it got loose the first couple runs. That long run obviously got tight, but about halfway through that it was loose. And then it kind of came to me, and then it just got too tight. So it was that kind of just settled in, and let Bart go after it. He deserved it. He ran a lot of laps this week with us, not ever having turned a lap till the last weekend. So I'd like to see that.
We definitely picked up the pace quickly then and got on top of everyone tonight, didn't he? What then, if that's the case? He definitely showed everyone up. But heading into the chase, Brent, it's one of those things you're locked in. You don't have to worry about next week. Whatever happens for you, really. Just to stay above that top 20, which I think you will. Heading into that first chase, obviously you got yourself, Britt's already in there, Sizesub's sort of there floating around, so how do you think you're going to go, and how do you guys are going to go together as a team? Obviously, Snelson trying to get his way in, not here tonight. How do you think you guys are all going to come together for that first chase race? Because it's going to be hard for you guys to try and keep all 3, or if not all 4 of you in there.
Yeah, I think our main focus next week will obviously is to get Jason in. We've run a lot of laps there. Previous seasons, just doing it just because back in the old Forza days we used to run that a lot, but obviously it's apples and oranges now. But we've always kind of taken to that track because it's flat, even though it's a little bit longer, but it's flat and each end's different. It kind of reminds us a little bit of a gateway, but it's we'll be good. We got to get a good set under Jason and get him a good qualifying set and get him some points. And get us some more points, Chris and I, and get ready for the chase, and kind of have the the points up here on the other monitor, kind of monitor in case we have some trouble with Jason, but I know he fell through about 10 laps to go and come back. He was running in the top 10, but qualified well enough, so average finish, above average next week, we should get him in.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how you guys play that. We'll be watching with eyes to see how you guys are going to go and try and figure out how you're going to get him in, because he's there or thereabouts. Marlowe didn't have a strong run either, but Doc Stout, Sean Ryan, they still got some good points. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out next week. But congratulations again tonight on a good, solid, strong top 5 finish. Brent, any shout-outs anyone you'd like to thank?
Oh, for sure. First off, I want to thank Doyle for sponsoring the race and the series. A lot of time and effort, money toward our way so we can do what we do. It's very appreciated. And obviously Brad Patterson with IFX. All the stuff Bobby does, website, drivers meetings, whatever we got to do. He keeps a pretty steady ship for us, and we do appreciate it. It's the best place I've ever ran. And I know all the GBR guys, the guys that hang out in our team speak, they'll tell you the same thing. So hats off to him, and the chase should be something good to watch here. We got a lot of talented guys coming into the chase, and should be nose to tail, I would think. So, and you guys at Race Spot, it's always it's a good Thursday or Friday to get watch the race, especially if we do well like we did tonight. And guys at GBR, Chris and Jason, Bart ran a lot of laps, gave us some input, and here we are.
Good luck, and good luck next week at Twin Rin, Brent, and hopefully you can have another solid top 5.
Appreciate it, guys.
That was our 4th place finisher, Brent Keith, in that 32 truck. And Randy, chuck it over to you for our final interview, Brandon Holder in the 31.
By the 31 machine, that's Brandon Holder. Brandon started 5th, finished 5th overall. Solid night for you. How'd you feel?
It felt pretty good at times. Missed the setup just a little bit for that temperature. Got tight. Kind of felt like I was in the way a few times. There's some guys running pretty hard. But all in all, it turned out.
Talking about this race tonight, how was running this racetrack? This track, it almost seemed like a bit of a dirt track to a certain extent out there, because people were able to make different lines work at different times. Had some people who were just up around the top, some people down at the bottom, some people in the middle, some people could seem to go almost anywhere they wanted. How was it racing, knowing the racetrack was so raceable?
Well, that's the great thing about Iowa. In real life, that's where some of the best racing all year is. It's just a well-built track, and it's good to see you can run anywhere you want.
And now, of course, next week, final round of the regular championship at Motegi. Going to be 113 laps of racing there, but you're already locked in, so next week is a bit of formality for you. First round of the chase is, I think, where you have to have your mindset. You have Michigan, Watkins Classic, and Atlanta. Prep already starting for those, and how are you feeling there?
Well, the first thing on our agenda is to get Sean in the chase and get Tim back in the chase. He had a bad night in qualifying and got caught up in that early wreck and had some troubles. But we want to get them in for sure.
So helping your teammates get in somehow, some way seems to be the main focus. But thanks for joining us tonight, Brandon. Congratulations on the strong top 5. Definitely involved in some big moments there throughout the night. Before we let you go, who'd you like to thank for the run tonight?
I'd like to thank Chris Jennings with Yosemite Mountain Escapes, our sponsor. Like I said last week, he's really stepped up, helped us out. Actually helped us out on some sets this week. I want to thank Tim Marlowe and the guys at RFR. They've chipped in. We've kind of joined a little of alliance there, and we're going to try to get some better runs going. Of course, Timmy and Sean put so many hours in the sets. We all do all week. I also like to thank my mom and dad for tuning in every week. It's fun to go back and talk to them about the race every week and what went on.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight again, Brandon. Hope to see you in that 31 machine running strong next week. I hope to see you get Ryan and Tim in as well.
Appreciate it, bud. Thanks for all y'all do. It's fun watching these races.
Well, you'll enjoy this one. This one was especially with that 150 or whatever it was, green flag run. It was pretty crazy. But that's going to do it for interviews tonight. Jake, before I forget, you have a Glovebox Racing Hard Luck Award for us. As Hugo reminds us in the background, by us, I mean me.
Hugo just to remind you because you'll get it wrong. But yeah, hard luck award. I think we're both conclusive on this one. I hope you are, Randy, because I think after tonight, Tim Marlowe started at the back, obviously, whether there was an issue there in quali, but he needed a strong run, got involved in that early lap incident, and that was it. It's one of those things where he needed to not stay out of all that trouble if he could have and not qualified near the back, but that's the way it happened, and that's actually put him on the back foot for next week. So definitely hard luck for him because he's got a lot to work for next week.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. He basically, I don't think there's any way he gets into the show, into the chase without coming away with a win next week at Motegi. But talking about Motegi, Jake, it is, very odd racetrack. IndyCar used to race there back in the day, and I believe NASCAR put on back in the 90s or the 80s, they put on a one-off race there way back when. So been a long time since we've seen a top-end level stock car series at that racetrack. I don't think I've ever seen an actual real competitive race there, even since when it released. A lot of drivers weren't really fond of it. But it is in some ways almost like a bigger, flatter Darlington of the fact that turn 1 and 2 are so long and so wide, and turns 3 and 4 are just so much more tighter and actually much more steeply banked than 1 and 2. Setup's going to be a real pain going into next week.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those racetracks, and you hear it often when you come to these odd tracks. You got to set it up for 3 and 4 or 1 and 2. Figure out where you're going to gain the most time and where you can lose a little bit of time less compared to your competitors. It's going to be really interesting to see whether people are trying to just make sure their 3 and 4 is down pat and go with that, or they try and focus on that 1, 2 with a high backing to try and flow more speed. It'll be interesting. We'll see how they all play it because it's going to be a lot on the line, and like a lot of them have said, they're all going to try and get their teammates in. So I think that's definitely going to be the aim of the game next week.
And with that, that is going to do it for us tonight here on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. Congratulations to the 45 of Bart Marak finally getting his first win in the regular season here at Iowa. 17 races in the regular part of the championship. Race number 17 coming up next week at, like we said, Twin Ring Motegi in Japan. After that, first round of the chase comes at you the week after. That's going to be at Michigan. Next 2 rounds of the first phase of the chase will be at Watkins Glen and Atlanta. Same time, same place next week on Wednesday. From me, Randy Chinnett, from Jake Blackhall, Hugo Louis, everyone on RaceSpotTV, everyone at iRacingLive, as well as everyone involved with the Raven Grafixx eSpeed Contender Series. Thank you for tuning in to the race tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.